The Tragic and Totally Preventable Decline of Final Fantasy XIV by Lucy Pyre. Now, there's a couple points before I get into this. I did reach out to Lucy Pyre in regards to reactions previously. She did clarify she does not mind reactions so long as it does not take up the entire screen. So, therefore, there will be none of this. So, any reactor who is using full screen, they are running afoul of this. They're not being morally and ethically correct in how they're doing it. So wanted to signal boost that. Second, Lucy Pyre has hundreds of hours on me personally. I think this is a pretty egregious claim to make. That being, and I wanted to see another Lucy Pyre video return to Final Fantasy XIV for a hot minute. I want to see what's brought to the table. I want to see citations, sources. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Hold on, you sick freak. Did you click on this video expecting to see criticism of God's most perfect game, Final Fantasy XIV? How dare you even imply it has problems that could use fixing? 14 has the best gameplay, the best job design, the greatest community, by the way, that your eyes have ever seen. And because my sense of self is inextricably tied to this game, I consider any criticism about it a criticism of me. So I'm going to be very upset if you have something negative to say, mister. Or at least, that's how it used to be. Back in the day.
I think it's incredibly misguided to say it's a perfect game. There's absolutely criticisms to be had. So I think she points out, via satire, I think she points out something incredibly fair. But once again, are we going to talk about, I don't know, writing for Xenos? Spoiler warning, obviously. Spoiler warning for Endwalker, Dawn Trail, etc., right? Are we going to talk about Xenos writing? Are we going to talk about Wook Lamont? Is this going to be, I guarantee you this is going to be getting me the camp of people who are like, Lamau, Wook Lamont, VA, trans, 0 out of 10 game? Go away. If you really think that, go away. Like, this is not the channel for you. Like, oh my god. I mean, yeah, there's criticisms to be had. I've had criticisms, and I said throughout the VODs that I did on Kids in a Kip TV, I absolutely had criticisms of how certain things in Dawn Trail were written. I think that Bakul Jaja, as cool of a character as he is, got off incredibly lightly, and everyone just kind of forgot him releasing Vali Garmanda. And then he's just kind of super good guy status going into the Alliance raid. I mean, he's obviously, you know, kind of like walking with you through the Alliance raid. Like, cool, I guess we never followed up on that. He just kind of, you know, released effectively a cataclysm, and nobody really did anything about it. There were no consequences to be had there. Dawn Trail itself was split into a couple parts very easily. When you talk about... there's effectively two stories within it. One is Wook Lamont's character arc, and there was that self-actualization moment where Wook Lamont kind of became from, you know, I can't do this is too hard, into, well, character growth, grats, self-actualization happened, cool, we're doing this now, right? And thus leading into the back end, you know, going into the whole Zoralia arc, etc., the New Alexandria thing. So there was a couple different stories inside there. Like, story-wise, I think there's problems. From a gameplay perspective, I hate Frontlines. I'm sorry if you're a Frontlines fan. I respect you for it. I can't stand Frontlines. I think it's absolute hot garbage, personally. Like, and that being said, like, there are valid criticisms with the game. I think every job is becoming super homogenized at this point, where, grats, do you play tank, roller, tank, DPS, or healer, right? Tank and healer, kind of, what flavor? Okay, you have your same exact mitigations. Dark Knight now has Dark Mind, which now does both things instead of just magical mitigation. Like, I think there's absolutely things that we can criticize. And criticism is honestly healthy because it showcases a number of things and showcases where pain points are to thus make a better product. As far as I'm aware, the community has been fine with the difficulty increase. We've had a difficulty increase in Shadowbringers, right? Holminster Switch was a difficulty increase. Tower of Babel, difficulty increase. Going into the 91 dungeon, that was a difficulty increase. Like, there's been a gradual... Well, in the case of Holminster going from Stormblood, like, there's been a massive increase. I started in 6.5, so technically... You can also just invalidate my opinion completely, because Lamau, you weren't around since 1.0. Yeah, I haven't been around since 1.0 like a lot of YouTubers and a lot of streamers. I apologize for that. I can only do so much.
You couldn't say anything about Final Fantasy XIV without the game dev writing army breathing down your neck. But these days, I see videos criticizing 14 everywhere I look. They're practically the only 14 videos coming out these days. And by making this one, I feel like I'm jumping on a bandwagon of sorts.
Her model, I like her model. Her model is just objectively aesthetic. I actually adore it.
Please, look at my credentials. I swear I'm not a trend Andy. I have a long and fleshed out history of lovingly shitting on this game. That is, until one day, I stopped. I quit making videos about 14. I didn't talk about it on stream anymore. If somebody asked me when I'd play it, I'd laugh nervously Honestly, while chat spammed clueless, I developed a script of sorts. Whenever people would ask me why I stopped playing, I told them that I burnt out. I told them that turning it into my job made playing it feel like work and that I just needed some time apart. But after literal years have passed, I realized that I was wrong. It's not that I was burnt out on 14. It's not that making videos about it ruined my passion for it. Those videos were made because I had passion in the first place. It turns out I lied. I didn't.
As it turns out, I burn out on 14 because I'm sick of doing newbie content. Like, don't get me wrong, an influx of players into anything, whether that be Warhammer 40k, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Final Fantasy 14, World of Warcraft, etc. Influx of new players is a good thing. It helps keep your game alive. It helps keep your game from stagnating. It helps keep your game from going belly up, right? I think that's an incredibly fair and valid thing to say. Now, it comes down to the people who are in the community already, the veterans of the community, being respectful of new people, and new people being respectful of the medium, right? You don't necessarily go in to 40k, right? And we've talked about this before. Well, I don't like Eldari Soulstones. I don't like how they have to be subservient to Slaanesh in certain capacities. Okay, no one asked your opinion, especially if you just came into the fandom, right? Final Fantasy 14, right? It's like, well, you know, I think Xenos' arc wrapped up in an awful way. I personally enjoyed it. We will agree to disagree. I loved Xenos' entire arc. The moment I saw him in Stormblood, instant favorite character. I thought Renjit was hot dog water. I hated that he was just Xenos 2.0 with how you got into that unwinnable like solo instance fight. It was just a reskin of Xenos. I don't understand the Renjit hype. But I've talked about that previously before. The issue that I keep running into is I want to run content. But naturally, as 14, in my opinion, is a smaller community. I've run community days and stuff like that, try to get statics together. Nothing sticks, and that's honestly fine. Like, the issue that I run into is I hate doing Crystal Tower. Please, for the love of Fowl's balls, please put that in its own queue at this point, or put it in MSQ. I am so sick of running Crystal Tower. I get into queue. The joke is if the queue denies popping, that was current content. If it has to re-queue because someone didn't accept, it's always Crystal Tower. Every single time it's been true. And you think about it this way: Crystal Tower is the only mandatory thing in the game, right? The only mandatory alliance raid. So you don't have to do near. You should do the Endwalker Alliance raid. We don't talk about the Endwalker Alliance raid. What you should do the Endwalker Alliance raid. You don't have to do those. So you get 24 people. If one of those has only Crystal Tower unlocked, everyone's getting Crystal Tower. And I've seen people leave Crystal Tower. That needs to be addressed. I came in at 6.5. I literally got my Black Mage to 90 in A Realm Reborn doing roulettes. And I saw the change, which negatively impacted me, where if your gear score did not match your level, you could not queue up for Alliance raids anymore. I think that Crystal Tower is definitely a mandatory thing. Throw it in main story at this point. I'm so sick of running it. I'm so sick of running, like, Cutter's Cry and then getting complained at when I run through the mobs. Like, you're supposed to, like everyone else does. Like, well, you should stick with the team. And it's like, just run through it, Fivehead. Like, every single time this has happened. And I've had healers completely just proceed to not heal me. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So at this point, I don't like doing lobby content, not because I don't want to support new players, as I myself was a Sprout. We need to take care of our newer players. I'm not a mentor. That's what that is supposed to be, is it not? I need to queue up into harder content because I need to get better, okay? I cannot go into UWU. I cannot go into UCUP. I cannot go into T. I cannot go into, not DSR. What's the new one that just came out recently? The Shadowbringers Ultimate, right? Like, I can't do those. I cannot queue up to those and do those. I can't do Hades EX. I can't do Elidibus EX, right? I can hardly do some of the Stormblood EXs. I can't do Tsukuyomi solo. Not with my current level. I don't understand how you're supposed to go into dead ends and solo the first boss by using your intervention, your gap closer, because you can. I hear you can. But, like, I need to increase my skill level to be able to get... It makes better players. It's why I'm consistently crapping on Crystal Tower, because... you always stack the stacks in Zonde until you get to something like what Spider and Pandemonium was a P10, right? Don't stack the stacks. If you stack the stack in actual content, you're gonna run into issues. Everyone stacks the stack in Zonde because, oh my god, just stack the stacks. It makes sure the things spread out less. Okay, it actively makes worse players, and I've been advocating this for a while now. I'm kind of sick of lobby content. There needs to be a way to actually do current content to level up. Like, I don't know. I have a very biased view of roulettes, and it's absolutely ruined my enjoyment.
Stopped because I made it my job. I stopped because 14 has done nothing worth being passionate for. So, let's talk about that. And our conversation is gonna take a hot second, which means that at some point, I'm bound to have an opinion you disagree with. Feel free to run to the comments and write essays about how wrong I am because my autism enables me to enjoy reading unhinged manifestos about Final Fantasy XIV. Just keep in mind that despite popular opinion, I don't want the game to die. I want to see it rise out of this slump and go back to being the joy to play that it once was. Other than that, there will be very minor and vague spoilers for the story, so if you're a huge stickler for that, you might want to head out. Or don't. I like when people cry about spoilers they were already warned about. It gets—
Spoilers No, it's fine. I'm caught up. I'm caught up 7.1. I'm caught up with Hard Boiled, right? I haven't done things like Baja. I haven't finished things like Eureka, but like, yeah, I'm caught up. You should be as well.
me all hot and bothered. Oh yeah? You didn't know that they fight dragons in Heavensward?
Hello?
Keep going, I'm almost there. Anyway, no
Fantastic.
more preamble, roll the damn clip. If I'm gonna talk about the problems with this game, I have to start with the game direction. 14 is not a difficult game and never really has been, which means I'm saying a lot when I tell you
I don't have enough understanding of content before Shadowbringers and how it used to be because content was changed. I don't have enough understanding of that. I thought that I personally think that the difficulty spike, we have the tools to deal with the difficulty spike. I think that at face value with the two sentences said, I would have to disagree with. I want to see where she goes with this.
that the game has been gradually dumbing down, simplifying, and streamlining gameplay so that the player virtually never experiences failure. Let me put this in Joseph Anderson terms. If Elden Ring had a problem with making things too difficult to keep their reputation of try-hard gameplay alive, then 14 has the opposite problem. 14 wants to make things piss easy so that even a paraplegic chicken with Alzheimer's can keep up. Trust me, I've broken into Square Enix headquarters and I've seen the chicken. It's crazy shit.
Amazing.
This stretches into every part of the base game, including dungeons, raids, hell. Even old content isn't safe. They've been sent to Yoshi P's
Sure. Okay. I want to hear. I've heard EX2. This is what is this? Powers by symbol my authority when Zoologist says that, right? I want to hear her take on the actual big boy content. Sure, absolutely. I think that in terms of UCOB, from what I've heard, like Picto, the new Ultimate Picto, I hear completely invalidates. Like it's far easier if you bring Pictos into it, and it feels like a regular Ultimate if you don't bring Pictos into it. So Pictomancer, I've complained about it for a hot minute. I think that it's a cool class. I've joked that Pictomancer is autism, whereas you have Viper, which is ADHD, the class. I think that it's so funny. But Picto has so much value in its kit, and its potencies are so big. And clearly, allegedly, there are parse charts out there that showcase Picto is like outside of the like peak Black Mage usage. Like, there's no contest with Picto. Machinist doesn't even hit the low end of your like worst Pictomancer Claire. I think that like there's definitely a potency issue. I mean, as far as I'm aware, they nerfed Reaper when it came out in Endwalker because it was just too good. So are we bringing stuff up? But we already buffed stuff, and it's still not the level of Pictomancer. What's going to happen with Pictomancer? Like, you start running into the Dark Souls ADP, right? How do you balance a game if you can tweak with your iframes? How do I tweak a boss if you have 0 ADP? How do I tweak a boss if you have 20 ADP? What about 40, 44 ADP, 60 ADP, 99 ADP, right? Like, most of the thresholds, right? Like, okay, how do you balance, I don't know, Smelter Demon? I'm trying to remember bosses. I'm sorry, I haven't actually played Dark Souls 2. How do you balance Vendrick to ADP, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, we have the tools, and that's why, on one hand, I'm okay with the streamlining, because the streamlining allows the older skills to kind of consolidate and have a, like, more streamlined early rotation, and then you finish off with some of the later skills and stuff, right? Notice like your Primal Rend, your warrior finishers are finishers, right? Your Confiteor combo, right, is going to be at the end of the combo. Then you have Blade of Honor now for Paladin, and then it's just a big F-off hit, right? We have, Perfectio for Reapers now, right? So they're clearly condensing down things that either they don't want in the game, like Kaiten for Samurai. They're condensing all that down and then adding more finishers, and that's why we have a completely new gauge as Black Mage, the Flare gauge, right? So, yeah. I think that I can agree with the dumbing down of classes. I think that classes are pretty brain dead easy in a lot of aspects. I think that's an incredibly easy thing to do. That being said, being able to execute your class is also another side of the argument. If I were to show up and I'm like, oh, I know how the Paladin rotation works, into UCOB, I don't know what I'm doing. If I were to show up as Paladin into, I don't know, Shinry X to try and solo it, which I've tried, I physically can't. I don't have the rotation down to a good enough degree, right? Like, I mean, most of my issues is that, like, I usually have to end up doing content solo, if not duo or trio, whenever I stream it, right? Like, I have to run 14 solo at this point.
Veterinarian practice to be declawed, defanged, and of course, utterly fucking neutered. Let me give you an example. One fateful day while playing 14, I got cued into Titan Normal. A very nostalgic primal, great music, overused chicken nugget memes, but I can forgive him for the sins of Larry Zor. Now imagine my surprise when the new player fell off the edge, and 3 seconds later, I was able to res them. Right! I forgot having unique mechanics in fights might be too difficult for new players. So glad that's gone. And then I got...
Okay, but so in all fairness, we are discussing our own board. First of all, if I get Titan again in queue, I'm actually going to shit a brick. I hate getting Titan in queue. I always get Titan in queue. There was a time I got nothing but Titan in queue. Oh, I hated it. So, yes, if we're talking a Realm Reborn, so I'm expecting at this point, we're going to talk about Totorak, right? Didn't Totorak used to be amazed? Comparable Minds, that used to be a new player check as far as I'm understanding, right? So I'm assuming we're going to bring this up if we bring up a Realm Reborn. But we also see a dated dungeon design, dungeons like Cutter's Cry, right? Cutter's Cry is, for all intents and purposes, a product of its era. That design starts to go out the window, you know, partway into Stormblood, even going into partway through Heavens, we're going into Stormblood, we see a completely different, that's modern Final Fantasy starting to take shape. And then we get the Home Switch and Shadowbringers, the difficulty spike happens, but you know, you have your 2 to 3 pulls boss, 2 to 3 pulls boss, 2 to 3 pulls boss, final boss, right? Like a formula starts to develop. So Titan, I think that's not necessarily, it's like getting Ifrit, dude. It's kind of just like, yeah, this is baby's first content, right? I think my honest worry, and I'm glad that 14 didn't, as someone who started in 6.5, I was worried I was going to run into things like Ifrit, Titan, Totorak, etc., and I was going to have to, like, balls to the wall, like Tower of Babel, Tower of Zot. That was going to be the entirety of the game. I'm glad they waited till, like, late Stormblood or, like, early Shadowbringers to start throwing that. And thus I get into Dawn Trail, and as someone who was new as of, like, 6.5, right, it's like, okay, I'm glad that I was able to be weaned into this, right? I'm glad I was able to do this. I hate going back and doing lobby content at this point, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm glad I was given the opportunity to learn how the game functioned. I hate DPS queue so much that I honestly learned how to tank and heal at this point, and honestly, I've done some banger healing in, it's just regular Arcadian 4, but I've done some banger heals in that. Like, we had some fun stream moments.
But the Aerie as my dungeon, and in the fight against Nidhogg, I realized there's no more Astinian there. I guess the devs thought casting Cure once or twice on him was too hard for the healers to handle. Never mind how that fucks with the lore or emotional impact. Just get rid of any failure point. It's too risky. What's really ironic and
we talk about getting rid of failure points. Oh my god, I've seen people absolutely eat stuff. Oh my god. Not even high tier content. I've seen people absolutely eat it in low content. Not like some weird Doom mechanic or something like that. Because those still do exist, right? Sunken City of Scala still has that Doom mechanic with the funny dinosaur in the basement, right? That you have to get on the pad to cleanse your Doom. Like, stuff like that still exists. But I have seen some absolute, like, bro, how do you function in the morning? Like, how do you put your shirt on? Like, actual, like Pepe 5 head players. Like, at a certain, so this is where the contention comes into play. At what point do you expect players to know how to play the game? If I'm going into Arcadian, I expect that and this was a huge point in an Arcadian stream I did. I do not expect that Viper at like 30-40% HP to pop that LB3. We were doing Honeybee Lovely, Viper popped that LB3, and we needed the LB3 later, and everyone blames the healers. And it's like, I was healing during that, so I got exceptionally pissed off at that. Viper, really? And then I'm fighting back with my team because I'm just like, no, Viper clearly wants to pop it. Viper pops it, even though I'm trying to pop LB3, and it's like, the healer gets blamed. Like, there are some absolute... I had a Gunbreaker in Brute Bomber who... He did not stand in the double tank stack. He did not stand in it. And I actually got ganked like 2 to 3 times doing it. I had to pop Hallowed Ground to get out of that. At what point do you expect, okay, you're in Dawn Trail. You should be able to play the game. If you're in a Realm Reborn, I can forgive things a little bit. I can forgive things like, you know, what is it? Kukulane. It's not Kukulane. It's the fun. That's Void Arc. Capifera, right? Is it Capoeira? Whatever this Diamondback spell comes from, the stupid turtle, the turtle dragon that never came back because it was just Beta Chaos gimmick dungeon. Stone Vigil hard, that boss. Like, at what point do you expect players to play the game? Which is why I'm an advocate against things like everyone gets Crystal Tower every single day, because it actively makes worse players and reinforces bad habits. Yes, throw us more Nier. Throw us more Endwalker. Throw us more Lighthouse. Please, stop. Throw Crystal Tower in main story. At least I can choose to queue up for Crystal Tower at that point.
Funny about this is that they've tried to backtrack recently. Don't get too excited though, it's the bare minimum. They made the new level 90 to 100 dungeons a bit harder than they were before. Stress on a bit, not hard enough that you can't figure it out in the first run and then never have to think about it again, but still, that's progress, right?
But that's the whole thing. So that's the whole thing behind their core philosophy, right? So let's take Zodiark, right? Let's take Zodiark, level 83 trial, right? You don't necessarily go into Zodiark, base Zodiark, and being like, okay, what does Paradigma? What do the squares and the triangles mean? What is the table? The arena rotation mechanic, right? They show you things sequentially, right? Even if things are absolutely static in their presentation, right? You'll have something like Seed of Sacrifice, right, where you have Elidibus, and he'll do his fire attack, and it showcases the play icon, hey move, or the ice attack. Sorry, that's the pause, right? And then you have the ice mechanic, which is, play. Like, they'll rotate through mechanics to show you the fight, right? Like, hi, this is Zodiark summons the beasts, right? The beasts are clearly going to be a circle, right? Oh, get to the not circle. Oh, cool, this is the snakes. The snakes are the line. Okay, avoid the snakes. Oh, now we're rotating the arena. This is what this does. Oh, now we're going to combine the mechanics. That's their philosophy to it. We're going to show you A, we're going to show you B, we're going to show you C, now execute it. And that being said, like, there are players who are unable to do that. Absolutely. So I think that the dungeon difficulty is fine. Like, there should be a little bit of struggle factor there. I should expect my healer in a level 100 dungeon, this dungeon specifically, I should expect my healer to understand how to play the game. I should expect my black mage to know where to drop their ley lines. And even if they're still learning, it's like, okay, at least you're not going down. At least you're not wasting heals, right? At least you're not wasting reses. I expect my Viper to stop going down. This was a huge 7.0 base Dawn Trail thing. I haven't seen it much in 7.1. Oh my God, Vipers, stop going deep, okay? If you're going to go deep, and I want the math to be run on this. If a Viper goes deep and then gets knocked out, right, goes down, because the healer then has to take the time to be able to res them, especially if they don't have Swift Cast up, right? So I want someone to please do the math on the damage numbers of a Viper going deep, going down, and having to be rezzed versus a Viper that plays a little more conservatively and doesn't actually eat mechanics, right, and stress out the healers, right? Like, I want the math to be done on that, especially because I guarantee the Viper that goes deep and goes down is going to have less damage output than a Viper that's a little more conservative, right? That's how that works. I think the dungeon difficulty is fine. I have had to run into, I think it was this dungeon specifically. It was the level 100 New Alexandria dungeon. The funny boss that looks like Kukulane, the tentacles, and he has the crosses and the circles. I give people, as a tank, because I can solo content, it is technically a reportable offense to solo content, right? I've had to solo Hermes. I've had to solo that boss. I've had to solo a few other things, especially in dead ends, right? Like, I've had to solo stuff. I actively throw myself into the kill wall at this point because it is a reportable offense for all intents and purposes. I am slow playing. I am ruining someone else's enjoyment of the game. Therefore, so in this level 100 dungeon, right, I think it is the first boss specifically, I watched my Sage go down 3 times in a row. And every time I wiped, okay? Third try, okay, this Sage cannot get it together. My DPS are trying. I think it was me and the Black Mage up. I soloed that boss from 40%. At what point, and that's the thing, it's not technically a reportable offense, is it? We're using report, that's the extreme end of the spectrum, right? We're using that as the, like, kind of anchor point. Realistically, unless you're actively throwing, like the Gunbreaker prior mentioned, you shouldn't be doing things like that, right? Like, you give people grace, right? Unless they're actively being a shitter, right? This Sage just, I guess, didn't know how to play the game. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not sitting in this dungeon for an hour. I'm going to solo this from 40%, which I did, and then we moved on. And we still had issues for the rest of the dungeon. Like, I think the Sage wiped twice on the next 2 encounters as well. And it's like, at what point do you expect people to play the game? What is the incentive to play the game? I think I can agree with her in certain aspects on this, because, let's be real, Lucy Pyre has enough experience under her belt, she will play circles around me, okay? I'm sure she's done ultimates. I have not done ultimates. She has done more EXs than I have. I have not done EXs, okay? I am fairly new, all things considered. So absolutely, like, high merit, specialty, experience, etc., defer to Lucy Pyre, right? If I make a good point that's justifiable, sure. But at the end of the day, I do not have as much time invested as someone like Lucy Pyre does. I have my own unique perspective, especially coming at 6.5 and seeing how the game actually structure going forward, as well as how it progressed. But like, merit where merit is relevant, right? Merit where merit has been earned, right? Absolutely. So my issue with we're only 4 minutes in, dude. I gotta gotta do something with this. This is gonna turn into like a 4-hour react. Oh my god. No, I can agree in certain aspects. I think that it's less of a difficulty thing and more of a player. But that being said, this gets into the game design philosophy of if the player's not given the tools to succeed, how can you expect the players to succeed? Especially get Crystal Tower over and over and over and over again, and everyone's stacking the stacks where you shouldn't stack the stacks, right? You see how these problems feed into each other?
Well, in my opinion, it's too little and way too late. Now, the case for why is hard to crack, but after decades of research, I think I know the answer. After snorting my 10% off with code LucyGamerSubs powder, I astral projected myself straight to Japan to play 5D chess against Yoshi P himself. My 1 million IQ mind translating his Japanese to perfect English before the words even left his mouth. And after 10 hours of pure strategy, I placed him in checkmate and was bestowed with the information, the secret agenda of... It was for money.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. If game easy, more people play game. If more game is play, then more is money. Shareholder...
It's Destiny 2 as well. Retention metrics. Why do you like gate content? Why do you time gate content? Why do you time gate catalysts? It's also a retention metric.
Happy. Yay. It feels like these game devs are truly terrified of losing your sub, and that means they're scared of anything that might drive off a new player, anything that might take away that hit of dopamine that keeps you playing in the first place. They never want you to experience a negative emotion while playing their game, so what do? They take out challenge. They ask less of you. They give everyone the tools to survive so that if the healer is a literal toddler banging on the keyboard, you can still finish the duty without kicking them out. Why do you think Tenchi Jin was changed? Why is Black Mage getting more and more instant casts? Why did they decide pressing Kaiten before Midare was too difficult? Why else would they refuse to nerf Picto despite how unhealthy its numbers turned out to be for the endgame?
Oh my god, base Lucy Pyre. I have heard I've heard a couple people talk about it, but like I hear how Picto is completely fine. And I'm like, no. I think this is the actual chart that I was referencing, actually.
Picto.
Yeah, I think this is the actual parse chart. Not that you can parse, obviously, because that's against terms of service. That would definitely not be okay. Absolutely not. That definitely does not exist, right? But look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Machinist on the bottom does not even touch low-end Picto. To me, that is a problem. I'm okay if certain things are best in slot. You can have a specialty best in slot, right? Let's say, I don't know, Black Mage is especially good against Barbaricha, right? Or let's say Paladin is specifically good in certain dungeons where Dark Knight is going to be better than others. I'm okay with having specializations, right? Especially if Dark Knight has more like magic mitigations. If you have a single best in slot, that is a problem from a game design perspective, okay? Thank God I avoided these formats. Teledad and Yu-Gi-Oh! Tier 0 format. Dragon Rulers, pretty tier 0. I think it was tier 1 between that and spellbooks, right? But like, Dragon Rulers, pretty oppressive, right? Like, tier 0 formats are pretty bad for all intents and purposes. Oh my god, please. This to me signals a problem, to which, that's fine. If we're bringing up other classes, sure. But clearly, whatever is happening is not working. Picto is still de facto, if you can play the class at a competent level, going to be the best in slot. I inherently disagree with that from a design standpoint.
Despite how unhealthy its numbers turned out to be for the endgame. If a job requires skill, it might drive the shitters away. And Square Enix can't have that. But their idea of making things easy to keep players is flawed. And to my shock, Yoshi P agrees with me. There's this nice little quote from him recently where he talked about how if a side-scrolling game doesn't have holes to fall into, then there's no fun in playing it. Yeah. I tell you, viewer, I cried tears of joy. Finally, Yoshi understands. He's gonna do it, guys. He's gonna fix the game. And when I played the new dungeons, I felt that he was starting to fix that part of the game. The new normal trials were challenging in a fun way. I'll give them credit where it's due. They have tried to increase the difficulty for this expansion, even if it's slight. And it's a great change, and I appreciated it, but with the state that job design is in, I'm not really sure it matters. You'll hear
I think that when it comes to the job design philosophy, we have to understand that this is effectively Stormblood 2.0. I think that A Realm Reborn 2.0 is technically not a appropriate comparison because A Realm Reborn was of its time, right? And then Heavensward was the capstone on, and that's why we see certain jobs, like we see like the jobs going to 50 currently, and then we see like the skills they get, and then they start specializing through 60, like Paladin, I think it's like Divine Veil, Clemency, Warrior. I'm a tank man if you can't tell. Warrior ends up getting its, raw intuition, like healing abilities, that kind of thing. Heavensward's kind of the cap of that. So it's like a 1-2. Start of, I guess, contemporary is the word I'll use. Contemporary Final Fantasy 14 is going to be Stormblood. Going into Shadowbringers, going to Endwalker. Hardline there. Now we're going to go into Dawntrail. I think that Dawntrail being expected to be any way, shape, or form to the level that Shadowbringers or Endwalker is a misguided opinion. However, I think that declaring it as Stormblood 2.0, New World Boogaloo, is the right opinion here. I think that is looking at design. This is a starting point, right? And we kind of see that in certain aspects as well, especially from the story as well, like going into the New World, going into 7.1 where we have Y'shtola. Hi, we have this thing that was found at the endgame area, and now she's waiting 6 to 8 weeks at time of reacting to this, 6 to 8 weeks to tell us what she found on that exact day, which I poke fun at. Don't get me wrong, one of my criticisms of storytelling and pacing, right? But we have a new thing like New Eureka coming out. We have a new Big Zone. They're trying to pace things, and this is the start of modern for all intents and purposes. Think like trading card game formats, right? Like 1.0 is like vintage Magic the Gathering, and like legacy Magic the Gathering is like A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and then you get into like modern which is like Stormblood through Endwalker, and now standard is going to be Dawntrail. So I think if you look at the job design like that, as this is the new starting point, I think that they're going to be willing to take the hit in regards to a little bit of perception, right? Like, because goodwill's kind of a currency, right? Like, think about it this way. If I put out banger video after banger video after banger video, and then I have a really L video, right? Like an L reaction, which I feel this is going to be because, oh my God, it's so long. I'm so sorry, Lucy Pyre. I love your content. I love your design. Oh my God, I've completely ruined this by turning the first 7 minutes into 30 minutes. I am so sorry. Like, but like, and you're like, he has an L every now and again, right? Like goodwill is a currency, and businesses have proven that they will treat it as such, especially if they have to have some kind of product, like an L product come out. So, I mean, I think that job design, this should be treated as a this is a new beginning. This is a Realm Reborn, Stormblood 2.0. This should be treated as a new starting point.
There other people say the jobs have become more and more homogenized over time.
Yeah, I'd say that.
I'm not going to disagree with them. It's bad for tanks. It's real bad for healers. And to hear you DPS mains tell it, it's not going too good on your side of town either. And maybe this is a controversial take, but here's the way that I see it. If I can level each healer, one after the other, and I barely have to change my approach to gameplay, I think there's a problem.
Correct. I think the most fun I had was actually learning Scholar. Going in blind, right? It's homogenized enough that I'm like, okay, these are generally what I need to know. But having to balance the fairy gauge, having to balance my shields and stuff was kind of cool. It was a different approach. If I go in as white mage, oh my God, I put on the mixing bowl. I start eating crayons. I start zooming around. Oh my God, I love playing white mage. I'm a super aggressive white mage. But yeah, no, I can agree with her on this. I think that is a pretty reasonable take.
And if the encounters are marginally more difficult, the devs forgot that the core gameplay of a job is what creates someone who mains it and keeps playing the damn game. And the thing is, they used to understand that. Scholar was a busy mess in Stormblood, but it was my favorite iteration of the job to date. Astrologian was an RNG-dependent job, but making the best out of a bad card pull was part of the class fantasy. Heavens where Dark Knight's dark arts required some thought, but God if it wasn't fun for the people who enjoyed actually managing their mana. Bit by bit, they've been stripping out the things that make jobs different, and Summoner in particular got a complete rework. Nowadays, if you like Dot, you can play Bard, I guess? Yeah.
But I mean, they kind of took most dots out of the game, did they not? As far as I'm aware, what I've been told. I think they took enough dots out of the game and they spread it out through a bunch of classes. And even then, we had a dot removed from Viper. We don't even have Nash in the game anymore. Does Viper need it? Not necessarily. I do miss seeing like 6 stacks of Nash on like Zonde. That was pretty fun.
I am well aware that this is God's most unpopular opinion. But seriously, why did they do old Summoner dirty like that? I'm saying this as someone who never mained the job because I don't have to. I'd be pissed if it happened to my main, and with Healer, it kinda did happen to my main.
Leveling with Summoner kind of hurt me. I don't want to touch Summoner, if I'm being completely honest, because of the nerfs. I hear it's pretty fun. I hear the rotation's pretty fun. And, like, sure, 3-minute rotation. I get it. Reaper has a pretty baller rotation if you actually do the rotation correctly, right? Like, it has a pretty lengthy rotation. I don't know. There's something about going in as a Summoner and hitting, like, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, like, what is it, Broil and whatever the other ability is. I hate it, dude. I can't stand it. Like, I don't want to fall asleep at my computer. Like, that's why, yeah, I'll try to learn things like Reaper, where I have to keep in mind flank and rear, right? I have to keep in mind positioning, and I have to keep learning how to do things. It's a class that engages my brain, and I'm not necessarily good at it. I'm a much better tank, in my opinion. But it's still one of those that, like, okay, but there's actually stuff to do in this class.
So, I'm sorry, but I do think it was a middle finger to that player base, and the bare minimum they could have done was make a dot job that would replace it. But they didn't. Past Summoner mains got screwed, and there's no sign that they'll ever be unscrewed.
No.
They are permanently being by the massive dick of the job designers. And yeah, I know the player numbers were low. I know many people were dissatisfied that it didn't live up to the summoning lore. I know the dot playstyle was an acquired taste. But was the solution to that to completely nuke a playstyle out of the game and leave those fans with no replacement? It's sad.
I would say, yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable question to ask. Why would I play Summoner when I could just play Black Mage? I was going to say Blue Mage next, but like that's technically a limited job. Why would I play Summoner when I could just play... I can't even think of another Magic DPS off the top of my head right now because they all feel so homogenized. They just, like, these buttons do damage. Make sure you're standing. Make sure you're doing thing. Grats, you're able to press buttons. You're able to follow the Jocat ABC, always be casting. Grats, you're going to complete the encounter. Minimal effort required.
Because, you know, they could have done things differently. For example, maybe a little less funding into the scam known as Blue Mage, and a little more into creating another Arcanist spinoff?
Cool,
No,
would be.
We're gonna keep making limited jobs? Okay, I guess I'll go kill myself. But time and time again, the devs have shown that they will choose the path of least resistance. And what they replaced Summoner with was by far the easiest job to play in the entire game. Sure, having a couple jobs that are brain dead isn't a bad idea, but you went and replaced one of the sweatiest dot time optimizing spreadsheet maxing player populations with that? But even this is nothing in the face of the greatest consequence to making everything easier to play. And if you're a healer main, you already guessed it, the total death of the Trinity system.
I don't know what the Trinity system is. I can say on the Paladin side of things, why did you tie my fight or flight to my Goring Blade? Unlink that, please. Put it back on my bar. Do not idiot-proof my class like that. Like, please. It actually screws up my rotation when I'm having to do it. I have to change my rotation because you literally made it as a B sequence. A, B, right? A, C, A, B, going through the sequence. I have to press fight or flight to hit my Goring Blade. Please, revert that decision. I think that was dumb.
And no, I'm not talking about the religious one. Let's think about the general premise of the Trinity. You have tanks, healers, and DPS. DPS and healers can't take damage for shit, so they need tanks in order to not get DP double-fisted by any roided chocobo that looks in their general direction.
Right.
Tanks need healers because even though they're the swinging schlong alpha podcast chat of the team, they're only human. They can take more hits, but that doesn't make them immortal.
Have you met our Lord and Savior, Warrior? I'm sure she's going to get into it. Warrior 1 Dawn Trail, at least 7.0. I would even go as far as to say 7.1 as well. As someone who mains Paladin, oh my god, Warriors, your sustain is insane. When the sentiment I hear is, oh, there's a Warrior, I don't have to really worry about healing much this round. Warrior's cracked.
Of course, DPS need healers because 90% of them suck at the game and they need someone to wipe their ass for them, as is the law of any MMO. And finally, tanks and healers need DPS because they don't want to spend 2 hours throwing cotton balls at the enemy until it finally keels over. And up until Shadowbringers, the Trinity was alive and well, gently suckling on one another's teats in the most beautiful little throuple you've ever seen. That all changed when the Blood-Wedding Nation attacked.
So if we're going straight into tanks, when was the DPS meta? Because if I understand it correctly, people were talking about Legacy Final Fantasy XIV. I don't know which expansion specifically, but DPS used to actually be you play DPS or you didn't play the game. Like, this is a nerf DPS with tanks having to be brought up a little bit. I understand there was an era where you just picked DPS. You didn't necessarily need a tank, and you maybe had like one healer. So this is an interesting shift.
Just only a little bit. Warrior is far from the only problem with the Trinity system right now, but it was the first big blow, and the trend has only worsened with time. When I was still playing healer, anytime I got a warrior in my team, I would begin the 5-stage process of grief.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was about to have the most mind-numbingly boring dungeon experience of my goddamn life. There is no skill involved with carrying as a warrior. It is incredibly easy to press Bloodwetting on cooldown, and if you press it on cooldown, you win, whether you have a healer or you don't. In fact, if you want to be a real jackass, there's a fun little prank you can play on the party. If the healer ever dies, you can make sure you don't use any of your tools to keep the DPS alive, and then proceed to solo the boss, flexing your EP in front of their corpses. Or
So, and this is the thing. This is what I understand is an actual reportable offense and why I throw myself into the kill wall. If you are doing this, you are technically ruining someone else's enjoyment of the game as the tank. Just throw yourself into the kill wall, force them to play the game, force them to learn the mechanics, force them to actually engage their brain, right? This is dead ends. I know exactly which boss this is. If they keep running into the wind, if they keep running into the little toxic bulbs, right, the toxic clouds, let them learn, let them fail. If it's 3 times and my sage keeps dying, sure, yes, at that point, because I don't want to spend an hour in the instance, sure, I will solo something. But like, I think a lot of this does get resolved by tanks, unfortunately, taking the initiative and just throwing ourselves into the kill wall. Like, force people to learn the game. Even if you're not even if you're not doing like, blah, 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 right, and you're typing in like world chat, right, or party chat, right, at least allowing them, if they ask a question, sure, you can clarify, well, yes, when the little red arrows stare up, you must stack those are little stack markers, right? You stack those up specifically. But if they keep not doing it, right, let them fail. Let them learn through repeated failures. I love Dead Ends. I feel like Dead Ends is my favorite dungeon in the entire game. I love it thematically. I love the lore behind it. I love the feel of it. The mid-boss theme for Endwalker goes incredibly hard here. I absolutely love Dead Ends. So this is actually a boss in particular that you can force players to learn the game, right? You can force players, they either follow your positioning or they fail, right? If they don't know what's going on, they're going to get hit by the thing. They're going to stress out the healer because the healer's got to use all the doom off them, or the healer just lets them die at that point. And honestly, sure, what did you learn? Okay, we're going to res you. We're going to try this again. Oh, you're still not learning. Okay, cool. That's your own prerogative then. Like, at a certain point as well, healers don't have to res the party. Absolutely. Yes, if say the Viper goes down and you still have 1 DPS, the healer and the tank up, if I was healer on that, I will res you when it is relevant for me to do so. I'm not going to sacrifice the tank going down, because even when I don't play tank, I'm playing Ninja, played Ninja and Ultima, I'm somehow the tank. I had somebody completely just lose aggro and Cutter's crying. I'm just taking all the aggro. And it's like, tank stance, please? Like, anybody? Why? That's why I became a tank. Because if I'm going to tank anyways, I might as well have the armor and mitigations to go with that to become a tank, right? Like, oh my god. This is an odd Kip rant reaction, I swear.
them to wait half an hour for you to finish 1 enemy. Very fun. I love when that happens. And
yeah, no, don't do that.
if the warrior is sentient enough to use their healing tools on the DPS, then it's straight up optimal to ignore the Trinity and run a dungeon with a warrior and 3 DPS instead. After all, DPS is king in this game, and for whatever reason, Daddy P has decided that healers should have the least of it. Nowadays, warrior isn't the only problem child. This plague of adding cracked healing tools to non-healer kits has only festered. Paladin also has incredible self-sustain, gun
Yeah, we do. We also get Passage of Arms. Passage of Arms is pretty tech, especially in things like Wicked Thunder, where you just drop it when she does her line. Especially you have 2 Paladins back to back, where they're just like Passage. Healer drops their White Mage drops their funny bell. Passage. I do disagree with the Super Bolide nerf. I thought the going to 1 HP was really funny. I understand why they did it, but like, give us the 1 HP back.
Breaker has respectable self-sustain. Dark Knight is... okay, well, there's an exception to every rule, but the point is, the plague has turned into a pandemic, reaching even the DPS. Reaper has a heal over time, Dancer has an AoE heal, Summoner has an AoE heal, Pictomancer has a fucking shield. Am I missing anyone? Healers themselves keep getting new healing tools when they already have more healing than they'll ever need.
Yeah, I actually do run into this issue. She's actually onto something. As a White Mage, if I'm playing not brain dead, I have more healing than I know what to do with. Okay, like I have like the Medica 2 shield on every, like the Medica 2 regen on everybody. I have regular regen on everybody. I'm eating, aqua veiling, doing the tiny barrier mitigations that I have on my tank. Yeah, as a white mage, I have a crap ton of healing. Oh my god. But I mean, I might also be the exception. White mage is baby's first healer, right? I don't know. Like even a scholar and stuff, I feel like unless the situation goes south, like white mage does recovery very well, absolutely. Like sage, it's a little harder to recover, but like there's an art to it. Kind of like black mage recovery mid combo. If you like, step in the wrong place, like recovering your combo's kind of rough. But like, no, I don't dislike this take. I think that that's incredibly fair. I think the underlying issue here is the game just clearly needs to be harder. And I think that that's what she's getting at. I think she's actually going into this as fairly like, once again, hearing all the Wooklamat's VA, Wooklamat's VA. It's like, oh my god, dude, stop screeching. Please, go away. Hearing all that, hearing an actual like breakdown of, yes, these are the problems that we are experiencing. These are how these work. Yeah, cool. You've disarmed me at this point in time. You've disarmed any criticisms I have outright of this. I feel I've been pausing throughout to add commentary where I can, clarification where I can. But no, I think that this is constructing a great argument as to why the game needs to be harder. Do I think the game needs to be Zoology EX hard? Probably not. I mean, people like Shenpai enjoy it, right? Absolutely. And I think stuff like that should be optional content. Ultimates and stuff should be optional. But I also think that there is okay, you're expected to play the game, okay? If I'm going to New Alexandria and the sage is wiping 3 times, why can that ever happen? Like vote to kick ? Like why should that ever happen? Especially when they're just eating easy to dodge mechanics.
As long as they play in a party that has a pulse. People with an inflation kink must love this trend because with the amount of bloat you have in healers kits, I doubt they're ever able to play this game fully soft. Yeah, but Lucy, that's just in dungeons and normal mode content. That doesn't matter. Only hardcore stuff matters when it comes to balance. Follow Yoshiki's advice. And if you want to have fun as a healer, go play Ultimate. First of all,
if that is the actual philosophy, that is a flawed philosophy. I think that detracts from greater issues with having a community that is just inherently less skilled, right? Leading into this new Alexandria situation that I keep talking about, right? This sage going down 3 times and just being like, how does this even happen, right? Like, I think that, yes, absolutely. If you want to play like I would love to do Hades EX, okay? I would love to be able to stream, would love to be able to get into the Discord, would love to be able to even work with other VTubers and do things like Hades EX to actually learn content, to run high tier content synced, if not minimum item level. The issue is like, 1, finding people. Clearly, every time I log into Dbellus, there's a login queue. Where are all these people? Where are all these people in my content? Why am I waiting 20, 30 minutes for queues sometimes? Like, what is happening? I mean, obviously, Dbellus being a social server, so that's running into specific issues and, people just hanging out, chatting, which is fine. That's part of the game. It is a social atmosphere. If I wanted to do hardcore content, if I wanted to find people play the game, I'd probably swap over to a different server at that point, if not a different data center entirely. So, I mean, like, I get it. I understand that. I think that if that is truly the philosophy, I think that is a flawed philosophy, and I think Lucy Pyre is right to criticize that.
I hate this reasoning, because what you're really saying to me is this. Healers shouldn't be allowed to enjoy the game unless they're going sweaty tryhard mode. But hey, don't worry, I got you covered on that front. Because Ultimate has already been cleared without healers!
Yep.
Those are like the top 0.00001% of players. Not everyone could do that. Yeah, and I also don't know how to hack into Square Enix's mainframe and find the forbidden ERP logs between GMs. Is that a skill issue on my part, or do you think it's by design? Fact of the matter is, if the devs didn't want you clearing without healers, they wouldn't make it possible no matter what you did. They've gone back and fixed things where tanks weren't necessary. In the case of healers, they just don't care. And neither does the majority of the player base, it seems. I suspect it's because they don't want their overpowered healing toys yanked away, or because they don't play healer and thus don't give a shit. But hey, it keeps happening and will continue to happen. The most recent Savage tier was cleared without healers, I think on week 2. Very ordinary.
I honestly feel that we just need to give, like, as a white mage, I would actually appreciate a damage rotation. Please give me like you just give me like paladin status, right? 1, 2, 3 circle of scorn, that kind of thing. Maybe an occasional goring blade, like an OGCD big hit, right? Please just give me that. Like, I think that I would be fine doing that. And then we can also, I mean, I don't know how you necessarily consolidate skills because there is absolutely a lot of button bloat, but clearly with the way the game is currently designed, there are Yes, I think that what she's saying absolutely tracks. With the way the game is currently designed, yeah, the healer role feels a little redundant in certain circumstances. So, how do you remedy that? Do you shift the healer role entirely to more damage, kind of like Sage? Do you make all the content harder? And that's the point as well. Like, if you make content harder than it already is, I'm running into people who cannot clear the 100 dungeon. I am having to solo Hermes. That's Endwalker specifically, right? I'm having to solo bosses and dead ends because people can't read butterflies, even with the technical nerf to them, giving them the little circle pointer, right? People still can't read butterflies in dead ends. People still can't run certain content. So like, it really feels like a catch-22, right? Because I really have modern Crystal Tower, modern Crystal Tower 3 Cerberus. I have had runs where I've had to do 2 chains, to which someone is going to hear that and go, is that physically possible with modern power creep? Yes, it is. And I've had people go, Kip, how do you keep getting in these parties? How do you keep finding these people? Bro, I don't know. It's like how I break games every time I play them. Like, if somebody has an answer, am I just cursed? Like, please, like, somebody explain. Oh my God, though. Like, you will run into some very strange groups and very strange people. And to which, yes, people need to be running harder content. People need to be running content which actually taxes them. Up through free trial Stormblood, sure, whatever. Give everyone a free pass. It's legacy content, especially as bricky as a Realm Reborn is. A Realm Reborn almost made me quit the game. Okay, like Coerthus, I almost said F it, like threw this game away. 100%. I could not stand a Realm Reborn, but going into things like Shadowbringers, going into things like Late Stormblood, oh my God, yes. Dude, Alamigo meeting Xenos at the end, dude, dungeon was peak. Loved it. No issues with it. Honestly, pretty easy to run through. Once you actually understand how pulls work, once you understand mitigations, what to expect, what to look for, and what not look for, like some of the dungeons become easy. Like Tower of Babel doing a full pull, right? Like, sure, I love doing that stuff. Like, yeah, after Stormblood, I don't think there's an excuse to not have harder content. You have the entirety of the quote-unquote free trial for people to understand the basics of the game, and you should tailor it towards that. Yeah, Holminster Switch was a spike. Tower Babel was a spike. 91 Dungeon was a spike. I really hope that 8.1 is another spike. I want people to be able to play the game at a confident level. If I want to go to lobby content, it should be with the sole intention of helping newer players, not because it's like, well, we're just going to throw we're going to throw a full party of like 80s into Totorak. I hate that the system could do that. Oh, God.
Stuff perfectly healthy for the game. Wait, oh shit. I have an incoming voice message from Yoshi P. Do any of you guys understand Japanese? 寝たられて椅子に座ってがいい貴様らの新しい日常が来たのだ Perhaps unsurprisingly, healers don't like Yoshi's cuck chair. In fact, healer disappointment has reached such an insane level that there's a thread on the official forums with over 1,000 pages. Healers are pissed, and the
I mean, at this point, if you go down, I will, like, when I'm playing healer, I will res you when it's convenient for me. Because clearly, the expectation is you're able to do this content as is, right? I mean, obviously, it's a toxic mentality to have. But yeah, I will res you when it's convenient for me. If you stand in the piss puddle, that's not my problem. Learn the fight better. And to be fair, if I stand in the piss puddle, everyone has every right to say, learn the fight. That's how people get better. That rivalry, that holding each other accountable, that learning together. I think the game is missing this.
I've been turning a blind eye to it since 5.0. 5 years. 5 years healers have been left in this state with no promise of balance or even changes to their DPS kit to at least give them anything to do while the warrior main solos by breathing. And if I sound gamer rage mad, it's because I am. I loved healing in this game, goddamn. But I was obsessed with it, talked about it all the time. Hell, I started my career over it. So yeah, pardon me if I'm a little pissed, but I'm not going to apologize for having passion about a game I've put years of my life into. The devs have 2 choices if they actually care about fixing this. They can either bring the roles back into balance with one another and restore the Trinity, or they can admit they hate dealing with healers and just axe them entirely from the game. I'd take either one at this point. At least that would be proof that the devs have a direction in mind and that they're pursuing it with confidence. But for now, we're left with wishy-washy healer kits that only ever get fun when the party is really, really bad at playing the game. And considering how easy the content is, yeah, that...
The Wicked Thunder one that we did on stream, It was literally, I think our other healer kept going down consistently. Our other healer was like down. It was after second cannon blast going into third cannon blast. Man, I was firing off Medica 2 AoE. I was firing off Bell. I had to fire so many things to keep that party afloat from like 6%. I think it was. I don't remember what it was. It was 3 or 6%. It was fairly low, but like the team was starting to hurt and stuff. I had to fire like most everything I had for that. And it's kind of like, Grats, you did it, right? Like, who's going to acknowledge that? Who's going to respect that? Because clearly, what did you do other than that in the entire fight? I think that healers remains have a right to be pissed from the information presented. I know that if that being that like absolute like clutch is a rarity, and it has been a rarity in a lot of cases I found. Like, that's a disappointment to me. I should be able to use them. If you have a kit, right? Sure, there's going to be situational buttons that you pop every now and again, right? You're not necessarily popping Liturgy of the Bell off cooldown, especially in certain situations, right? If you're doing a dungeon pull, sure, you can use it on certain pulls. Certain bosses, especially if they don't really have big, you have to wait for the big attacks, right? But like, you're not necessarily popping Liturgy of the Bell off cooldown, right? You want to keep your dot up as much as possible. You want your options like your reses and stuff like that. Your mitigation you should be using when you need it. Your benediction, well, it's not benediction. Your full heal to full that white mage gets. You're popping that only if it's relevant. You're popping your temperance, your funny wings, right? That give you increased healing. You're popping that in that oh crap moment, like the end of Wicked Thunder. Like, yeah. But you don't really get to use a lot of that kit in standard content. So how do we have to just nerf DPS and tanks? As a tank man, I'll be sad, don't get me wrong. But if it's for the health of the game, and if it actually makes players learn the game, yeah, I think at that point, why not?
Usually doesn't happen. But I don't see this metaphorical genie being put back into the bottle. I don't think these devs are strong enough. Now that they've given tanks and DPS these strong heals, they're not gonna take them back. Most warriors defend their overpowered job tooth and nail, and I mean, who can blame them? I don't understand how playing something practically unkillable is fun for them, but whatever. Some people like being the Mary Sue of an MMO. I can't criticize them because I sort of joined them. I switched to Gunbreaker in 6.0 and didn't look back. The tank role as a whole is broken and receives constant glazing in the form of buffs, overpowered kits, and special mounts they get just for doing duties while existing as a tank.
I actually didn't know this. To be fair, tanks did get an aggro nerf going into Dawn Trail, and I'm sure she'll address that. We did get an aggro nerf where, like, Endwalker, dude, you just had to hit things. You had to sneeze on things, and they would follow you throughout the pull. Now, your team can actually pull the aggro off you, which can ruin a pull. So you have to kind of keep applying pressure. You have to keep pulling. You have to like meter your pulls and stuff. It's turned the Mount Gold Death pull into a little bit of an interesting one, especially if your party doesn't know what they're doing or if they're not as confident in their role, right? But yeah, like they did get a nerf. Is it enough? I don't think so.
I figured, why continue being a second-class citizen when I could just main a job that the devs actually like? And I think this switching of roles is what gave me the patience to keep playing for the majority of 6.0 to 6.5. But it wasn't enough. And unfortunately for the players, and very fortunately for me milking the hell out of this video's time duration, the Trinity system isn't the only thing showing a lack of effort from the devs. Perhaps one of the biggest so-called black pills in 14 is the slow removal of content over time.
Yeah.
See, the whole idea behind having longer patch cycles and waiting longer for new content was that it would result in a better gaming experience. After all, what else are they doing with all that extra time? The answer may surprise you.
The answer was redoing the blacklist system, to which allegedly allowed there was a Cider Spider made a video on it. This was a huge thing. A lot of people were pissed about it because of how they redid the blacklist in Dawn Trail, and I guess how they're going to redo the friends list as well. There were certain things that you could take advantage of client side, allegedly, from what I understand and what I've heard, that allowed you to like figure out information about other people. And if you wanted to, and what I understood, what I heard allegedly is that if you wanted your name taken off this, you had to go to the Discord and you had to submit all the like retainer name information, player name information and stuff so they could remove you from that list. No, do not give out any information unless it's relevant, right? Like, did you like? No, don't. Like, my bank, I will not give my bank certain information. I will give them as much information as they need. Hi, this is what you need to know. Oh, hi, this is how I get verified. Cool, I want to do this. I'm not telling them my social. I'm not telling them X, Y, Z. They already have all that, right? If they really needed it, there is a channel that can get opened in order to rectify any discrepancy there, right? Like, yeah, that was huge. A lot of people were not happy about that. I don't think I'm happy about that in any way, shape, or form. Like, that is egregious to have that. But then again, I don't know. It's been interesting because allegedly the 14 experience, a lot of client-side things can be changed. And it doesn't necessarily affect gameplay. But from what I understand, can Square Enix, like, legally acknowledge it? Can they accept it? I don't think so for obvious legal reasons. But I think that, yeah, if you have people paying sub fees, if not multiple sub fees, to be able to do client-side shenanigans, allegedly, if these tools absolutely existed, which definitely they don't, like, would that not also have play into a retention metric? And if anything problematic happened, then you just quash that specific problem? I think that it's a topic that keeps coming up every now and again, and I have to refrain from a full and true opinion because I don't have enough information on it, on alleged tools that may or may not exist.
Drum roll, please. They've added a grand total of exactly less content than you had in the 3-month patch cycle. You know, when I've had a long day of hard work, and I just need some time to unwind with my favorite MMO of all time, I love to go sit in my comfy chair, log in, and do nothing. God, I love doing nothing.
Dude, is Limsa standing not the end game? It's like RuneScape. It's like GE or bank standing. That's just the end game. You just stand there all day at Grand Exchange. Oh, bro, can I do something? Can I do Zuck Carapack? Anyone want to do hard mode like duo Carapack? Like, please? Anybody? Bro, I hate that. But to be fair, like, certain people do get enjoyment out of using the social aspect of it. I think that's wrong to take from them specifically, but I don't think that's what she's targeting is. I think she's targeting it like, yeah, there's not really content to do. We're like waiting on like piecemeal content, but what is there exactly to do? I think they're trying to rely on their legacy content. I think they're trying to rely on, up through Stormblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker, and then leading into Dawntrail. I think they're trying to get everyone kind of on the same page. I was actually shocked that the Hildebrand continued Hearted Boiled. It's like a 20-minute VOD because I did it. And I'm like, really? There's no quest yet? Like, when is this dropping? And a lot of the time, I'll get with some members of my mod team, and it's just like, yeah, when's the next patch drop? Oh, this drops in, like, March or whatever. It's like, waiting 7.2. Seeing what they're going to bring with 7.2, right? And it's like, I think that it's floundering. I don't know. Like, how do you fix that, right? Like, there's a number of Twitch streamers who play with their statics. There's a number of VTubers I see post on, like, Twitter on, like, 14 and stuff. Like, I don't have that outreach. I don't have the ability to do group content like that. Just, I tried and failed, right? At the end of the day, tried getting statics together, tried doing things. Ultimately, it's the D&D problem, right? Certain people can't make it. Certain people have other things to do. Certain people have other engagements. It happens. It's whatever. Like, it's a no fault. Thus, I've stopped trying at this point. So, I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like, I feel that the group dynamic makes the game a lot better. But to be fair, any game is better when you play with your friends or in a group, right? That's not necessarily a fair conclusion.
How do the devs expect us to do all this nothing they're making for us? Sarcasm aside, I do see people questioning the devs' thought process all the time. Like, what do they see as the motivation to keep casual players logging in when there's nothing new to do for months at a time? Don't fret, because I'm 90% sure I have the answer. They are hinging their bets on the role-playing community. I genuinely think their idea is that enough people are going to reach enlightenment just by dressing up their cat girl and AFKing and Limsa Square with a dance emote. A paid dance emote, by the way. Because let's not forget that putting emotes in the cash shop is way more profitable than turning it into an event reward.
I think that this also feeds into the alleged, if the tools potentially existed to change things client-side, which they definitely don't, allegedly, of course. I think this could also feed into that reasoning. Like, hi, we get free retention metrics off of this. If someone makes a problem, like the blacklist thing, we'll have Square Enix legal to just take care of this, right? this would make sense.
God forbid we made actual content for the game. Just make product and sell it as quickly as possible or the shareholder might lose his erection. Yeah, man, the game devs do a little uptime maximizing of their own, and their motto is ABC.
Always be casting?
Always be sucking. But the sad part is, they keep doing it because it works. There is a significant part of the player base that couldn't give a shit about the actual game. They just use it as their ERP hub and
Bro, these are the people who literally take up my login spots. I can't stand it. Please, I want to log in. I want to play content. Sure, yeah, I'll sit around and do something sometimes, but I hate when it's like, yeah, I gotta go do my roulette stick, I gotta do my front lines, gotta go like bash through front lines. And like, bro, like, dude, can we just introduce like AFK timers or something? Like, I know we do it every big patch. I think an AFK timer, even if it was like 30 minutes, would help with congestion a lot. There's not even really well, if there's technically incentive to move servers, okay, yeah, why would I ever move it? What's the incentive for me to go a low pop server if I have to get rid of my FC house, which I effectively got for free? Like, what incentive do I have to pack up and move to a new server? Like, Gil? Most of my classes are already, I think all my classes actually now are like 80 plus. I don't even get the EXP boost. Sure, I get chocobo feathers for some collectible rewards, I guess. What's the actual incentive? As far as I'm aware, I still have to pay for a world transfer. Why am I moving off of Diabolos? The answer is, I'm not moving off of Diabolos. In fact, I have people come over and they're like, Kip, can you go sell this on the market? And just yeah, please. I'm like, yeah, I'll sell this. And then I just take out, here's your profit. Classic. No, dude, these people actually take in login queues, and it pisses me off, especially when my like queue to actually do content is like 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes 30, depending on time of day. It's wild.
keep their sub active so they can find out what happens at the end of the Rogadin game thing they started last Wednesday. Sprinkle a little cash shop slut glam on top, and you have Yoshi P's dream player right there. And let it be known that I'm not sitting on roleplay. I've done a little cringe activity back in my Tumblr heyday, but I'll be damned if—
Impossible. Lucy Pyre is say-so waifu. I don't know what you're talking about. Lucy Pyre is not cringe. She may be base cringe, but she is perfectly say-so, 100%.
I let Yoshi P prioritize the role-playing scene over actual content. The fact that a lot of people defend the cash shop is another debate entirely. Misshapen—
If you have a cash shop, do not have a sub fee. If you have a sub fee, do not have a cash shop. Yes, I am putting World of Warcraft, I am putting RuneScape, I am putting Elder Scrolls Online. You name it, I am putting them in the crosshairs as well. If you have a sub fee, do not have a cash shop, even if it is optional. I think that is double dipping and way too egregious.
Tara made a great video on that, so check that out in the pinned comment if you want to hear my controversial take. I'm not getting into it here, but even if you ignore the paid emotes, paid outfits, paid dyes, paid mounts, you get the idea. Then you'll have to wrestle with the fact that the game objectively has less content than ever before. Let me give a brief overview. First, we went from getting 2 new expert dungeons in a patch to only 1. Whatever. Small potatoes, right? Just walk it off. And then, we lost our job quests and got role quests instead.
We did.
A decently sized blow. Many people enjoyed them, and we would no longer be getting updates to the quests that embellish the job and class fantasy we were so drawn to in the first place.
I think that Dancer does get an 80 quest specifically, but yeah, no, like, I was having a lot of fun throughout like the Paladin quest. What was I doing? I think I was doing Dancer recently, Machinist as well, and then just, yeah, they were not going to continue this. I think I hear that, and like, yeah, no, that kind of hurts. Not gonna lie. Like, there's class quests I really don't care about, like the warrior class quest. Sure, I thought the Stormblood one was funny with the whole back and forth lover warrior, that subplot. Thought it was funny. And like I'm not against role quests. I thought the magical DPS Dawn Trail role quest was phenomenal because it was just a shitpost. It was a comedy shitpost the entire way through. It was great. But yeah, like, it's just one of those things where I actually feel disappointed at that. Yeah. Like, certain ones, don't really care. Other ones, I'm like, I'm really sad we're never going to get a follow-up on this.
Are the role quests at least better written or longer? Not really, but I mean, there's so many jobs in the game. I guess it was too much to keep up with. And at least we still have our relic grind, right? Isn't that something we can spend a lot of time having fun with in-game? Sorry, man. About those relics. Yeah, those are just tomestones now. Yeah, you can just buy it by running the same 2 dungeons in Expert Roulette over and over again. Sorry. Is that disappointing? Don't worry, guys. We're working on new content. There's just so much other content we're developing. Can't you see? Look at how much content content you have now. What are the new things we have? Well, we have
Funny small Lucy Pyre. You probably put that Lucy Pyre in a jar.
Island Sanctuary, which turned out to be less like a farming simulator and more like a click and wait simulator. We also have Criterion Dungeons, which gave out less than stellar rewards. We also have new Extreme Trials. I mean, not really. They're just old Extreme Trials rebalanced for the current level cap, so we're just recycling old shit and putting mediocre rewards on it. But yeah!
Did you know that they redid Halatali? The thing that the Doctore set was from, right? I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. There's the E on the end, which throws me off. You know they redid Halatali? So the first boss is no longer the fire sprite, but it's something else entirely. You don't go through the bonfire anymore. And then, like, there's the chains are a little different now. And then you get to the final boss, and, like, the Dawntrail dungeon, like, X is doing this action. They redid Halatali. They kind of just snuck that in there, and I'm like, really? Halatali? Why? What is the reasoning for this? Is this to make... Because they've already cut out Quests in a Realm Reborn. I know they have. They've also cut the instance out before Heavensward of the Ishgard Dragon on the bridge. I guess that used to be a trial. It's no longer there anymore. So, are they still trying to streamline a Realm Reborn? And at what point do you just have some sort of, like, skip option? Or some sort of, like, streamlined... like Mass Effect, right? Mass Effect, if you've never played 1 or 2, going into 3... Or even playing 2, but you didn't play 1, like I did. Still haven't played 1. Like, one of those things where you just kind of look at that and you go, okay, well, this is the decision I'd make. This is the recap of what I need to know. Cool, go in. Because I feel like Realm Reborn could easily be like a 2-hour YouTube video. And you have everything you need to know. From Alphino and the Blueberries to Ilberd's treachery, Raubon losing his arm. Like, Gratz, you have everything. Kobold's doing Kobold things, summoning Titan. Gratz, you're done. I think A Realm Reborn is definitely still the sticking point, and I think that is affecting their bottom line.
That's technically new. We're also getting seasonal events. Less and less, with each one taking less time than the one before it and offering increasingly worse rewards. And other than that, we have...
Personally, I hate seasonal quests. I hate the repetition, especially one after the other. I missed Valentine's Day this year, and now it's Little Ladies' Day as of reacting to this. Dude, I can't be bothered. I personally cannot be bothered unless it's short, because I would much rather be running content personally. So I think that that's a, like, disagreement there, but on a technicality that I'm just not incentivized into doing it. If the reward is great, sure. But then that leads into the conversation of we're getting less and less rewards. Why would you just not go to the cash shop? And it's taking less and less time. I think it speaks less to me not wanting to do them and more that I don't expect quality from them, or don't expect as big of quality from them as I would say doing the MSQ, right? I think that could be the technical disagreement between our two viewpoints, but ultimately leading into I think seasonal events could use a little bit of work.
Hold on, let me just sift through my files here. We have, here it is. We finally put Hilda's hairstyle in the cash shop. Have we fixed the housing situation?
No.
Well, no, that's not. Yeah, you do have to stay sub to keep your house, of course you do. Are you...
What was that? Hold up. No, this is actually very real. So we're going to throw losing my house. The only thing that keeps me, quote, playing during dead patches. And by playing, I mean $15 to log into my house and immediately log out once every 30 days. Remember, I was so grateful for periods of crisis like Hurricane that paused the demo timer. Dude, yeah, this is the big one, right? Like the fact that housing timers exist, but AFK timers don't, right? If you don't have, like, just remove the housing timers, which, I mean, technically would also potentially, like, this showcases that this would actually lose them metrics. This would lose them retention, right? But, like, why can't we have Dawntrail, like, apartments? Why can't we have something in, like, Solution 9, right? Why can't we just build our own homestead in the across the bridge from Tuliolal, right? The Murrikun Western land, right? Why can't we just have that? Like, housing is... When World of Warcraft pokes fun at your housing system, you're in trouble.
Are you looking forward to getting new outfits in the dungeons and crafted gear? Don't go too crazy with your expectations there. The vast majority are just recolors and dyeable versions of old stuff. Do Viera and Hrothgar at least have hats yet?
Nope.
Oh yeah,
no,
it has been years by now. Hey man, the devs need 4 months between patch cycles. What are you, a slave driver? The trend is clear. You, as the player, are getting less and less content while putting in the same exact money you did when they were giving you more. And there are people out there who will tell you that wanting more is bad. That wanting more is asking for the game devs to be overworked and abused. Who are
It is not a dev issue. It is a management issue. And I've talked about this a number of times. If you have a product coming out in an shitified or subpar state, that is a management issue. That is failure to delegate, failure to have the appropriate and qualified staffing, failure to work within time constraints. Like whether it's the immediate manager, whether that's shareholder, investor status, CEO, executive board, whatever status, it is in some way, shape, or form a management issue. The dev shows up. What's on my to-do list today? This is what I'm doing today. Cool. I'm making this cash op set. Grats. The dev doesn't get to say, well, I would like to work on Vieira and Hrothgar having hats. I think that'd be pretty cool. If it's not on their docket, that is given to them by management, they can't do anything. Like, that's not on the devs.
Are these mysterious individuals, the White Knights, who come to defend the billion-dollar company's honor, the legendary, the fabled, the ever-present great community, by the way. That's
God.
right. If all of that wasn't enough, Final Fantasy XIV is backed up by a community that defends it from criticism as if 14 is the project of a few poor, underfunded indie devs instead of Square Enix. The great community, by the way, gamer, follows a simple line of protocol. The DDD. Deny, dismiss, and downplay. That's a fun game you can do. See if you can spot the different types as we go along. The most infamous part of these specimens is their constant criticism of, quote, elitism within the game. Of course, to them, elitism is when you're semi-competent at playing. Asking for harder normal content so you don't fall asleep in dailies. Elitism. Asking for job complexity. Elitism. Asking for healers to have more DPS options. Believe it or not, elitism. And
elitism comes across to me as if somebody just goes, I mean, you could even say I'm pretty elitist from what I've said, right? If you're in a 100 dungeon and you're wiping 3 times, the expectation is that you know how to play the game, especially if you're in current patch content. But that can be seen as an elitist take in certain aspects. Like, I think that elitism would be, I've been around since 1.0 and played every single thing. I've played Eureka, got the Ozma mount, played Baja, got the big chase mount from that. It's like 55 million gil or whatever. I can't remember specifically. Like the big mount from that. And then it's like, yeah, you'll always be lesser than me. That's elitism. Like, there's a huge difference between somebody just completely invalidating your existence because of their perceived or actual skill, and people being like, yo, can you not stand in the piss puddle? Like, this isn't hard. This is current patch content. You've literally seen this spin mechanic in Brute Bomber. I would say Mad Bomber. In Brute Bomber from Emerald Weapon. You've literally, I guess technically you can avoid the weapon series, but you've seen the spin attack multiple times. You've seen the arena rotate with Zodiark. Can you play the game, please? I don't think that's necessarily elitist. I think it's rude in a lot of aspects, right? But I think there is that expectation. If you're in 7.1 content, you should be able to do 7.1. And I wiped. I definitely wiped the first time I went to the rabbit because I misread the hole in the center. People know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, the hole, right? So yeah, I wiped to that, but I didn't do it again. Haven't done it since. I went through the first time, learned what it is. Cool, grats. Let's go for it. That's it. That's all that's said. That's all that's done. I think that the elitism is getting misconstrued here.
their eyes, anything that doesn't cater to the lowest common denominator is for elitist scum. And you better believe that if you want to kick that healer from your party who's doing nothing but casting cure when you're already at full HP, you're just elitist, bro. You're not dead, so they're totes doing their job. How dare you ask for more from the player base?
See, I think I have a biased perspective because I literally came from Destiny. I spent 4 hours multiple times in Vault of Glass. I hate spending 4 hours in Vault of Glass. I did a Vault of Glass run in the server recently. Oh my god, we were done in like 50 minutes. It felt so good to not spend 2 hours on Oracle and Templar. Oh my god. But even then, it's like, okay, but what are you bringing to the table? Destiny, it's something like, what am I bringing to the table? Oh, I'm bringing Xenophage for Oracles. Or, for damage on Atheon, I'll bring, sure, I'm going to run something like maybe like bait and switch Cataclysmic, right? Sure, awesome. We're set. What are you bringing for damage on Oryx? Bait and switch Kata, bring in field prep Whisper of the Worm. Sure. Going into, so thus being able to transfer over to 14 with mechanics, what are you doing? What are you bringing to the table, right? Why are you standing in the mechanics? Why are you dying to this mechanic? Thank God we don't have res tokens. Oh my god. Oh, gets really annoying when you're starting to do certain raids and just the same person dies like 3 times to the Vex build. You're like, please, bro. I don't want to spend 4 hours in Kingsfall Vault of Glass anymore. That's the main reason I'm not playing Destiny recently. Oh my god. But yeah, it's like, what are you bringing? So it's not necessarily that you're having different gear. It's like, cool, you're kitted out. Can you bring your skill set? If you're playing a paladin, are you passiving arms at the right time? If you are a warrior, are you running into red HP consistently? Or are you running into low HP or actually using blood winning appropriately, right? If you are a white mage and it's going to be a repeat attack like Ankh Morn or something like that, are you dropping your bell correctly? You bring whatever your specific kit has to the fight to be able to problem solve the fight. Grats, we've done it. We have solved how the game works. If you cannot do that, if you are a white mage and you don't drop your bell, and the bell would have saved the party, that is a valid criticism. Hi, why didn't you drop the bell? Forgot about it. Skishy moment, right? There's nothing we can do about that.
Stop being such an elitist, my guy. Not everyone wants to try hard by having a basic understanding of the game like you. They've done this since the dawn of the game, always hiding behind some corner, waiting for someone to make the grave error of asking for more difficulty or complexity. Then they jump out of the bushes to tell you that they know someone who's disabled, or someone who doesn't have a lot of time to play the games, or someone who only plays for the story, as if there aren't already solutions to every one of these problems.
Sure. And you know what? I make the same argument in Destiny, right? Your Destiny content up through raids should be made so that your average dad or mom, gets on their weekend, they hop on Friday, Saturday night to play a couple raids, couple strikes and GMs, right? If you want that hardcore challenge, yes, you have master raids. You have certain GMs, right? Like the high tier players, the top even 1%, dare I say it, should absolutely have content. It should be a requirement for everything. But yeah, everyone should be able to go through the MSQ. And sure, if there's options to assist in certain things such as disabilities, awesome. I heard allegedly they had to fix Viper because I think people's arthritis was flaring up, I think, allegedly, potentially. Like, yeah, pretty rough, not gonna lie. Definitely not a good look. I think that's one of those things that, you have somebody who's looking out for liability, legal side of, Square Enix being like, yeah, I should probably change this, right? So there is that to consider, but everyone should be able to get through the MSQ. When you start getting into post-patch, yeah, there needs to be some sort of difficulty. When you get into things like EXs, yes, absolutely. You're looking at something that needs trial and error. You need to be able to either look at a guide or go through blind prog, and you need to take time to learn it, right? 100%. And then when you learn it, you feel accomplished because you know how Hades EX works at that point. I don't remember the buffs offhand, but I've done Hades EX a few times, and it's a fun fight. I actually rather enjoy it. I'd love to do it more. So yeah, one of those things that I just look at and I kind of scratch my head at, like, Ultimates should be the ultimate content that people should strive for, is it not? And yeah, you will have your top 10%, 1% of your community who are just like, yeah, no, we cleared that without a healer, right? Sure, absolutely. But, like, I think that it's okay to have easy content. It's also okay to have hard content. You don't want, like, Destiny 2, EDZ, going to the EDZ and you one-tap everything with, like, I don't know, Mida Multi-Tool or whatever, right? And it's like, okay, where's the fun in this? Then you go to a GM and you get absolutely railed by the Vex Wyvern that decides to dive bomb you from around the corner in Glassway. And you're just like, all right, there's a huge jump in this. Woo. Hard content shouldn't be vilified. It comes down to, is it appropriate? Yes, no. And I think that appropriateness, that nuance escapes a lot of people.
Suck at the game and don't want to burden anyone? Use trust. You're busy and you want to see just the story? Watch a playthrough of only the story parts. Dozens of those exist on this very platform.
I definitely have my recorded VODs over on Kizinakip TV. I have up through Dawn Trail. I have up through 7.1. I can attest to this. If you don't want to play 14, but you want to watch the Dingus play 14, all you got to do, go over here. And you gotta go right here. We have Monster High that just went live, tested out some Destiny. I don't know why it says no views. But yeah, I started from about like late A Realm Reborn. This is old model. Oh my god. Late A Realm Reborn, and I'm up through Dawn Trail. Grats. If you want the story, you can do it that way.
Disabled but want to play with your friends? Why not try out Summoner, a very mobile job that can be played with one hotbar and controller. It's not that people don't want these accessibility options to exist, it's that they don't want that to become the entire game. Future Lucy adding to this point. I really hate the accessibility argument that people make to defend the devs, because while I was putting together this video, I literally found a thread with about 80 pages worth of people talking about how the new graphics hurt their eyes and makes the game unplayable. These people have gone completely ignored, with not even a mention from the devs. And considering how easy it would be to add some settings to get rid of the bloom and maybe lower the brightness, I really don't know how you could actually believe they care about accessibility.
So here's the thing. Allegedly, you could potentially, possibly, allegedly, not that I can condone this, not that I could support this, use things like, is it reshade? You could allegedly use like third-party things to adjust certain graphics settings. Allegedly, potentially. Definitely make sure you're reading the terms of service, and I legally cannot support doing that, obviously. But would that, if there's no accessibility options, but this is actively causing issues for players, would something like that not become the, like think how people work, right? The graphics are hurting my eyes. Okay, well, can I get a fix? Goes unanswered. Okay, well, what if I use a third-party tool like Reshade? Well, you can't do that. It goes against policy. Okay, so can I get a fix? No, you can't do that. It's the same argument I make for why, well, I want to buy Pokemon Fire Red. Okay, Nintendo, sell me it. I'm sorry, we don't sell that product at this time. Okay, but I want to buy it. I want to legally buy it. Okay, we don't sell this product at this time. Okay, go to eBay, go to the reseller. Oh, authentic carts are pretty up there. You can't. Ooh, okay. And then certain people will be like, well, maybe I'll just go sail the high seas. Well, no, you can't do that because that's all right. That's our intellectual property, rightfully so, right? Okay, so then sell me the damn game. I'm sorry, we don't sell this product at this time. Okay, you're creating your own problems. You cannot complain about a problem when you refuse to sell the solution. I think that's an incredibly fair thing, right? It's like I always make the argument. You go to Taco Bell and you complain that they don't have like fried chicken. My guy, KFC is down the road. I don't know.
Okay, back to the video, just felt that deserved mentioning. But in the eyes of the great community, by the way, this is toxicity. And asking for normal mode content to be anything more than a brain-dead slug is a sin. But they defend much more than the gameplay. They're also ride or die for the story, no matter how low it's fallen. Let's take Dawn Trail, for example. Twitter in particular was the Wook Lamont Defense Squad. Any criticism of her writing would get you called a plethora of insults. Illiterate, brain-rotted by TikTok, and edgelord. I'm pretty sure they just started pulling shit out of a hat at some point.
I had some issues with her writing. I hated how it was up through about the Goblin area, right? The Moblets, I don't remember what they were called. She definitely was pretty whiny, and that makes sense because, you know, spoiled child. Yes, orphan technically, but like spoiled child going out into the world, not feeling like she was worth a damn. Urianger and Thancred and Kona sitting in the other camp, right? Until she kind of had this self-actualization moment, right? And then she kind of just got written out. But that's mostly because the story became less focused on the Rite of Succession, because the Rite of Succession was already done by that point, and then became about the New Alexandria Zoologia plot point, right? Like, it became a second story at that point. I have issues with the writing. I think calling it a perfect story is completely disingenuous. Once again, have issues with Bakul Jaja not seeing any consequences for literally releasing Vali Garmanda by cheating. Nope, that's going to go unaddressed? Okay.
Or even people straight up calling the story brilliant and some of the best writing in the game. If you don't like it, you don't have
Hard disagree with that. Xenos, especially Endwalker, was peak.
attention span. You're just a selfish brat who can't stand when the spotlight isn't on you. You're just a bigot. You hate women. You're a negative Nancy who hates happiness. And if you're right and the story is mid and the quality is down, don't worry. They're just world building right now. It's impossible.
You know, this act, but here's this. I think she's going to lead into how this negatively impacts the community, people trying to get into the game. I have this happen with the new Pokemon anime where I haven't watched the one with Liko, right? I haven't watched it. I think it's Horizons, but like there was an account that was like Poke Liko or whatever, just being like, if you don't like Liko, you're just an ash-filled and a misogynist, and just people. It just feels like a toxic positivity echo chamber all the time. And I'm like, I'm just gonna sit over here and watch Indigo League and Johto Journeys. Like, I don't want whatever this is. I will watch it on my own time, on my own terms, if I deem it is worth my time. But, like, it's so weird. We saw with Monster Hunter as well, there were posts about, like, a certain toy company releasing a toy for men. And it's like, really? For men? And it's like, do women not have the vast majority of this catalog? Why is this a point of contention? I don't know. I think both of those are oddly like men hating. And I think this comes into, oh, we just hate women. It's like, you're drawing a false conclusion there. That's not genuine. That's not fair by any means, in my opinion. So I don't really know. I don't know what to make of this. Like, I say it in a number of things, like a number of habitual line crosser reactions I've done, right? Dude, I hate everybody. Individual people can be cool, right? Even if I disagree with them. I'm sure there's plenty I say about 14 that Lucy Pyre disagrees with, for instance. I'm sure there's things that I say that Asmongold disagrees with, right? Like, yeah. You're an adult. You're allowed to have opinions and stuff. 100%. Like, I don't know. Individual people can be cool. I don't know where this weird, I guess tribalism is the word, this tribalism comes from. Well, if you hate Look Lamont, you're clearly just a bigot, you're a misogynist, you're against whatever. And it's like, no? Oh, well, you clearly think that because her English VA is a trans voice actor, you're not being fair. Like, excuse you? How did we swap from one extreme to the other? I can have criticisms about the writing and about the character. I don't care. If you straight up have MTF, like, big bahonka donka actress, right? Write the damn thing correctly. Is it a good presentation? Does it make sense? Wow, it's like almost if these things are good, cool. Why do I care how they identify? Why do I care who they are? Like, cool, they put on a good performance. Awesome, love it, totally into it, right? And I think that's a lot of people. Like, it's I don't know, because then you start getting to the merit argument. I really don't want to get into that argument, dude. I hate getting into the arguments based on merit and stuff. Like, you're allowed to have criticisms. You are allowed to, especially if you use logic, facts, and figures to come to an educated conclusion. You're allowed to have your conclusion. You're allowed to have your opinion. If someone's just going to write you off as a bigot saying, well, any criticism about Look Lamont is going to just be, absolutely slanderous, that speaks more about their character than it does yours, right? I consistently have to defend that I enjoy the Star Wars sequel trilogy. I can turn my brain off and enjoy it. It's whatever. I hate the throne and fight scene in 8. I hate it with a passion. Why did they just editing the kukri out in post pisses me off every time I see it. But I don't want to talk about Star Wars anymore because it always devolves into, well, the series did this was going wrong, blah, 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 blah. It's always just negativity. It's like, I just wanted to talk about how cool the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin was in 3. But you don't get that. It just turns into this weird toxic feedback loop. So, yeah, I think that likening this to Star Wars in certain aspects does make sense. If the community is just going to continuously just be shitty, yeah, then you're not going to want to engage with it. Like me, I don't want to engage with it because every time I hear about Star Wars, it's all about Kathleen Kennedy this, acolyte actress this, something this, politics this. It's like, bro, can I just enjoy the damn thing? Can I just find what I enjoy about this? With 14, well, you disagree with Look Lamont, you disagree with these writing decisions. I mean, you're clearly just, get out of here. It's like, can I just enjoy this? Can I just enjoy missing Xenos every day since finishing 6.0? Can I just enjoy going through the game, seeing what they did well, seeing what they tried to do? Maybe they didn't stick the landing on it. Can I just enjoy it? This tribalism nonsense needs to stop.
Possible to make a good story in a new world, right? Let's ignore the fact that they literally did that with Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
Let's make excuses for the writing team. Guys, have some sympathy. It's really hard to sell books too, because all of them are required to world build for 400 pages before they make things interesting. That's why there's no such thing as a booming bookstore industry selling novels that only have one volume.
That's the one.
This community made me feel genuinely gaslit about my experience with Dawn Trail.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean, she's probably under a lot of pressure because, like I've said in the past, I would love her to do more 14 videos. Said it earlier in this video. But if she doesn't feel good about 14, yeah, with that information, no, do what's best for you. Do what's best for your mental health. Do what's best for what you want to do with your life. That's fine. It's like Maxor's not going to release another Resident Evil 4 remake video from what I understand. And while I can lament that because Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, I can respect it. If you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. That's completely fair. If you feel like it is not a welcoming place for you, you shouldn't have to feel like you're forced to. I will still watch creators like Shenpai because Shenpai still plays. She did a recent Final Fantasy XIV EX wing grind experience, right? Like she still plays habitually, right? I absolutely love Shenpai. I think she's great. But it's understanding that even if you have people who have different viewpoints, it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's that mutual respect. I'm sure that like it's pretty reasonable. If you don't feel like you're valued, yeah, don't engage with it. That's completely fair. But if you do feel like it is worth your time, yeah, then engage with it. And people who just, throw baseless criticisms and allegations and accusations at you, especially when it's like, well, you're just insert buzzword here because you hate Wicklamat, get bent. Like, people are allowed to criticize things as long as it is fair and valid criticism.
Wasn't just one or two people jumping to the game's defense, it was thousands.
Yep.
But if I had to summarize my thoughts on the story, after giving it time, letting it sink in, and coming back to it with a clear head, it still felt like an insult to the player's intelligence, as if it was asking you to forget every lesson you learned in each expansion up until that point and throw it all away, because this time, the happy and wholesome character will get exactly what they want, with no real, long-lasting consequences thrown their way. It was so antithetical to the worlds of Heavensward and Stormblood and Shadowbringers, to the point that I could not reconcile them. It legitimately killed my interest in the story. I'll pause my thoughts on Dawntrail there, because this is more so about the toxic positivity the community throws at it, and other creators have already done a great job breaking it down, particularly Zepla's video, which I highly encourage you to check out if the topic interests you.
I mean, honestly, I probably won't be checking out these just because, I don't know, I find my own enjoyment in it. That's not to take away from her standpoint, Zepla's standpoint, etc. Not a topic that interests me personally. I have my own thoughts and opinions on the story. But I do like that she's just like, yeah, I'm going to put a pin on this. I think that toxic positivity is also, toxic positivity, not just 14. Toxic positivity is a problem, right? It is okay to be negative sometimes. As much as I try to tell myself otherwise, sometimes you have to call things out. Sometimes you have to be like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I can't stand this, right? Like, toxic positivity is 100% a thing. And it can be a rough thing. So, just keep that in mind. Like, toxic positivity is a problem, and it can be a genuine problem.
Thoughts almost perfectly echo mine, so just imagine Zepla saying it in a much whinier, annoying, and high-pitched voice, and then it's almost like you're still listening to a Lucy Pyre video. Does it end here? Do they at least know when to call it quits? Sure, they blow smoke up the gameplay and the story's ass, but surely they wouldn't defend something serious like, I don't know, a huge gaping security flaw? Nope. And strap in, because 14 players still stand in the way of the game's progress, even when it makes zero sense to do so. And I can prove it. They had one of their absolute greatest hits about 7 months ago, back when the devs rolled out their new blacklist system. For those of you who don't know, there's been some recent drama regarding data exploits, and without going into the nitty-gritty, here's what that means. Stalking you on your alts just became easy as hell for bad actors. Some absolute prophet known as Fori Manori Sinar, hallowed be thy name, tried to warn the community at large about this, but they hated the Messiah because he told the truth. Oh no! Anyways, it's still miles and leagues better than the previous system where you couldn't get away from people even if you wanted to. They're blacklisted anyway, so what's it matter? It's no different from them having your loads down. People have been tracking other players for years. I'm sure my stalkers love watching me AFK and old Daw for 96 hours. Well, hardly ideal. The people who would benefit from this the most are getting blacklisted anyway.
Do people just not understand? That's like, hi, due to security issue with your bank, people can now just look at your phone number. And maybe that's an incorrect comparison, but it's like, okay, but why do people have my information? Like, why can people just have this? Do people just not understand this? Like, you don't have to give out your information. Maybe that's just maybe it's an education failing. I don't know what that is, right? I didn't even know about this until it blew up on Twitter and Cider Spider made his video. Yeah, in my opinion, it's a problem. This is still a problem. Why should somebody be able to have my information, especially if it's like retainers, alts, etc.? I think that's pretty dumb.
If you're getting into situations where you're worried about people spreading slander about your alt accounts, even after you blacklisted them, you need to really touch grass and reevaluate your relationship with online games. This thread, for as important as the information within it turned out to be, only got 10 upvotes. Artwork of someone's borderline naked cat girl gets 100 times more.
Nice.
And the comments within the actual thread, all different ways of saying, no one gives a fuck, or it's not a problem anyway, or before. Yeah, it's a problem, but you're just being paranoid if you think people will actually stalk you. Comments filled with misinformation and people who have no clue what they're talking about. All things they said with confidence and upvotes before an actual stalking plugin was created and distributed publicly to players, forcing everyone to pay attention to the very real issue Square Enix had created.
I don't know what soundtrack this is. This is a banger, though. Excellent choice.
If you've never been in a situation where you had to worry about your privacy in the online game that you use to unwind and relax, then congratulations. I envy you.
Yeah.
But I am asking you to exercise a shred, a fucking modicum of empathy when I tell you that there are awful, terrible people out there who stalk and harass and threaten over the most irrelevant shit you can think of.
Honestly, based Lucy Pyre here. Yeah, like, oh, I never experienced it. Cool. Congrats on you never experiencing that. Do you have any empathy? Do you have any ability to understand how that can affect somebody, affect their enjoyment of the game, affect their actual life? It's why I keep saying I don't ever want to do a range day, even though I do like Tactic Hip and Firearms adjacent content, because I have to worry that someone's going to disagree with what I say in a video and outright cap me. That is a very real, that's not me playing it up. That is a concern I have. So yeah, I'm glad that other people don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about it. A bunch of other people have to worry about it, especially if they identify as a certain way. Really, understanding that this doesn't have to happen, but the fact that it does happen is a problem. And hi, we realize this is a problem? Hello? Am I just crazy?
Undercutting on the market board, leaving a free company, having a bad day in Party Finder, rejecting someone who asked them to be their RuneScape girlfriend. All of these things have been reasons for stalking in-game.
Correct.
So I just want you to put yourself in their shoes for a moment. What if every time you wanted to have fun with your favorite game, someone came up to you and started giving you shit? What if no matter how many times you blocked them, they'd always have a new alt to troll you with? What if they somehow knew where you were in-game all the time? Wouldn't you just want some fun privacy? Wouldn't you appreciate having a little bit of your anonymity back? If you can't understand why it's a problem, I can only assume one of two things. One, you're naive as hell and you think evil people don't exist. Or two, you're a complete asshole who doesn't care about others and you're arrogant enough to think it could never happen to you.
Dude, I'm a dingus, okay? I'm an idiot on the internet. I understand that this is a problem. I understand that this is a huge issue. If you check yourself moment. Just check yourself moment if this doesn't appear as an issue.
Well, for your sake, I hope you're right. Because Square Enix has responded to the situation.
Yes, they did.
And their response was, and I practically quote, please don't make plugins to stalk our users. That is very mean. We will sue. Future Lucy back again to let you know they have addressed this issue again in the latest live letter, but it's still unclear if they have an actual plan to fix it or if they're just reminding us that they know about it. At the very least, they don't seem to be in a rush to patch this out, so the point still stands.
Honestly, roll it back. I don't know. So here's the thing. You either roll it back or you just kill complete actual plugin support. Obviously, if technology and programs like that did exist, I mean, at what point do you just say, look, this can and will affect our users? Does it take somebody getting stalked IRL and something really bad happen to them to get something in motion? Why does it have to take a tragedy to mobilize people? Just fix the issue, right? It is not a good look to have your game just, non-public information, even if it's not like super like classified information, right? But like deep information, not readily accessible. Just anyone could just pull up deep information about you, like your alts, retainers, etc. Excuse you? Fix it, okay? Here's the thing, like, well, what happens if they introduce anti-cheat? What happens if they kill plugins altogether? Well, that can hit their retention metrics, as we talked about earlier, right? Suddenly you're not going to have a lot of people standing in G-pose with carbuncles, right? Like, that's going to hurt retention metrics. That's going to hurt player count. So it is a catch-22. But when security is a concern, as somebody who worked in finance, sure, you can say, well, you only worked in finance for a year, you only did X, Y, Z. Sure, I understand security, or at least I try to understand security. I hear OPSEC or NDA, I immediately turn off the subject, right? Talking to you, hi, chat viewer, talking to you, and it's just like, I'm under NDA for that. Hey, cool, yep, we're talking about something else now, right? Or, I would like to say something, but I can confirm or deny nothing. Okay, cool, talking about a different subject, right? People need to understand and take security way more seriously than it is. Oh my god, it's not hard.
No fix for the exploit, no rushing to solve their security flaws, nothing that would actually solve the problem permanently. Because even though the plugin is no longer being distributed, they can't delete it from the people who already downloaded it. They can't stop people from making new copies. And hell, even if they magically could, the security is so bad that all you need is fucking Wireshark to figure out what you need to know.
I'm a boomer. I have no idea what Wireshark is. No, she's correct. Pandora's box has been opened.
Oh no, their response is not enough. It's a joke, and it shows zero consideration for the people playing their game. I hate that this community dismisses real concerns until they're impossible to ignore. I hate that the person who whistleblowed this on Reddit was treated like a paranoid idiot. I hate that people defended the devs when they were objectively, factually undeserving of that defense. I hate how they are always standing in the way of this game's progress, as if 14 is this fragile being made of glass that will shatter if any criticism brushes its surface. But you know what? If 14 can't withstand criticism of a literal security flaw, then I don't think it deserves our money in the first place.
Base take. Yeah, honestly, I would go play WoW. As much as I can't stand WoW, I would pick up WoW. I would pick up World of Warcraft. I'd probably pick up Elder Scrolls Online or Lord of the Rings Online. If this is going to be a thing where there is going to be issues, my playtime will be better spent playing other games personally. If players are not necessarily dehumanized, right? But if they are thrown to the wayside and Lamau security concern, nah, that's fine. We're not going to really deal with it. I will just play other games. In fact, I will continue to play offline games. Been playing a lot of Pokemon in this past year. Been playing a lot of Pokemon games offline. It's been wild to play Fire Red and not get a notification. Someone sent me a message, notification of EULATOS update, notification of an update, right? Having to update, maybe having to roll back an update or try to go in and verify file integrity and cache, right? It's been wild to just own and play a game. Yes, it is a live service. I understand that playing Final Fantasy XIV is akin to playing something like RuneScape, is akin to something like playing like Destiny 2, right? I understand that. I understand that these are things that come with the territory. However, when something like this happens, fix it. Just do it. And you know what? At what point, once again, the conversation will come up, and it probably has come up, and probably will continue to come up. When do you put anti-cheat or something in? When do you put something in that can detect foreign plugins if they existed allegedly, which they definitely don't exist, right? At what point do you put anti-cheat in? At what point do you put something in? And is that going to detect things like reshade? Going to check things like G-shade? Going to detect things like non-invasive things? Is it going to detect people doing carbuncles and swapping models and stuff, right? What is it going to impact? What is it going to affect? What is the cost-benefit analysis here? What is the legal side of things? What is the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law here? There are many conversations that need to happen and have to happen to avoid a tragedy. Does it truly take a tragedy to change people's minds?
We as a community need to be better. We deserve better.
Correct.
And we should be asking for better. Stop cutting yourself, grow some balls, and quit paying them the sub money that they're just gonna use to bend over and fuck your cat girl wife with. Demand security, because it's the bare minimum you deserve. This game is never, and I do mean never, going to improve as long as the player base is happy to consume whatever slop the devs dish out. Thankfully, the sheer number of people talking about the decline of this game and the dwindling sub numbers gives me hope that the tides are finally shifting.
I heard that the sub numbers were going up. This would be new information to me to hear that they're actually going down. And it's not outside of 14's court to actually fix this. They can, if sub numbers are in fact going down, they have everything at their disposal to be able to fix this, to be able to remedy that. They have everything in their power to do so.
Players are starting to wake up to the problem that's been staring them in the face for so long, and that problem is this. Many of us sense no love or passion from the game devs. And sure, maybe we're looking in the wrong places. Maybe there are nuggets of careful thought and planning somewhere in the overarching scheme of things. But do we see it in the outdated character creation? Do we see it in the writing? Do we see it in the job design? The answer may shock you, but no. They're giving us the same old content cycle we've had since A Realm Reborn. New expert dungeon, new extreme trial, new 24-man raid, new 8-man raid, go try hard savage, go try hard the shiny new ultimate, with very little mid-core
We technically do have Cloud of Darkness Chaotic now. Aren't they trying to release new content, like new hard tier content
to feed those in between, or even casual content in Dawntrail's case? The gear farm is the same as ever, and as stingy as ever, not allowing you to try new jobs in endgame without investing your limited resources into it. Fuck with the way tomes are done in this
Doesn't WoW have the problem, though, that if you fall a week behind, you effectively just don't play the game? Like, isn't it you hit max, you get max gear for PvE, then PvP. If you miss a single week, like, you just are so behind the curve. I understand that WoW at a high competitive level, and I'm not the person to, like, I'm sure someone like Asmongold or somebody who actively plays WoW would be far better to be able to have this conversation. I understand that WoW, and for a number of years, has been very much, especially with, like, time-gated stuff, right? Like time-gated powers and stuff, it's a time sink. But people play WoW for that reason. They want to be able to play it for, you know, hours upon hours every single day to hit those arbitrary caps, to hit those time gates, right? Like, certain people do play the game for that. Other people like me, I'm going to look at that and go, I really don't care. Yeah, not a fan. I will go play something like Lord of the Rings Online or Elder Scrolls. RuneScape's kind of in my oof list right now because of pricing structure. The whole thing they released, there's a whole thing. RuneScape's kind of on my shit list right now, personally, especially after nerfing FSOA. To be fair, FSOA kind of deserved it, especially with like Crypt Lurker being just such a good set. Like, yeah, no, I think that this is an incredibly fair and reasonable statement.
Game, I feel like Final Fantasy XIV is a gacha game and I just hit my Battle Pass weekly XP limit. Why the hell am I paying a monthly subscription for a free-to-play experience? If the devs want us to be able to play every job on one character, then why can't they put their money where their mouth is and fix the gear problem? The game
Honestly, just get rid of the sub fee. Have the cash shop. Lean into the cash shop. Get rid of the sub fee. I'll pay for extra retainers, sure. I'll be that guy who will actually, you know, pay for extra retainers, because I still pay for extra retainers, right? Would like to get them free. I understand why they're not, right? I get it. Just allow us. Just get rid of the sub fee. You will have more players. You will fix a player issue. And then you appeal to people like me, people I know, who say if you have both a cash shop and a sub fee, that's egregious. You are double dipping way too far.
They're playing a type of gay chicken with all of us. Yeah, I said it. Just instead of making homoerotic eye contact, they're trying to see how little they can give before you finally break away. And can you blame them? Why would you try new things if people are paying for the old?
Yeah.
Why work harder when you can make up the missing sub money in cash shop sales? Why give a when the shareholder has lined pockets and fat stomachs? When Square Enix takes the money this game makes and shuffles it into other, less successful projects. And in that same vein, I feel terrible on the behalf of the devs who do put in effort, only to not be rewarded for it. Only to have the profits they made siphoned into projects that have nothing to do with them. That would be demotivating for anyone. And Square Enix needs to do better by them as well. The devs of this game can be better because they have been better. This is a verifiable fact. They have made fun and engaging jobs in the past. They have made challenging content. They have added events that give cosmetics instead of shuffling them into their cash shop. They can do it again, but they won't unless the numbers speak. They won't unless Tanaka shareholder-san starts knocking on their front door or back door. I'm not sure which position Japanese game devs prefer. At least at Blizzard, I heard they like doing it with milk or something. Whatever.
I will never let Blizzard live that down. I will never let them live that down.
The point is, with all of the doom posting about sub numbers and game dissatisfaction going around, I want to encourage you to do just one thing. Don't pity the devs. Don't pity Yoshi P. Don't feel bad that the game is declining, or that sub numbers are dwindling, or that most people who talk about the game only have negative things to say these days. Don't sink into paranoia that the game is going to die if you criticize it, because the irony is that if you don't, it probably fucking will. Join them, add to the voices speaking out, and then maybe, just maybe, Final Fantasy XIV will go back to being a game worth making videos about, worth playing, worth investing time into, and absolutely worth making sexy femboy alts to ERP with. Yeah, I do want this game to struggle. I want people to speak up loud and clear about the problems they have with it. I want to see the consequences of years worth of bad decisions pile up on the devs, and I want them to feel the full weight of it on their shoulders.
Honestly, sadistic Lucy Pyre got me feeling a kind of way, though. Like, not gonna lie. I kind of like this sadistic side of Lucy.
Not because I'm a WoW Andy who jumps shit, not because I'm a shit-stirrer who loves to see people suffer, but because I'm a proud f***ing 14 player, and I refuse to stand for what my game has shit the bed and fallen into. If a period of low numbers in sales is what we need to get back on track, then I welcome it with open arms. I want to see these capable game devs wipe the dirt off, roll their sleeves up, and get back to cooking some real gamer shit. In conclusion, f Mikodes, get money. Canceling yourself. This video has been a long time coming. It took me a while to write because I couldn't organize my thoughts or figure out exactly what deserved to be said and what was just rambling. I'm pretty sure I still rambled, but you'll have to forgive me for that on the account of I'm a woman and that's what I do best by nature. There are a lot of emotions and feelings intertwined with what I hope are valid points to be made about the game, so it took me a while to make this script coherent. I have no clue how many people who watch me care about 14 these days, but this is something that's been lingering.
I mean, I still actively play it. Now, I went in this very combative, and I feel that this was a very well-constructed argument.
In my subconscious for over a year now. Now that it's finally out of my head, I feel a lot better. And I hope it helps everyone understand where my mind is at in terms of the game right now and making content for it. There's probably stuff I'm missing or forgot to mention, but since this will probably be my longest script to date, forgive me if I forgot to mention whatever Yoshi P's aunt's, uncle's, dog's cousin is up to lately.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple things. Crystal Tower queue, lobby content being pushed, Crystal Tower being mandatory, Crystal Tower gear score, so I guess Alliance Raid gear score combined with level, which is still a problem in roulettes. If you say level up to, say, 85, but you still only have, actually level up to like 90, right? 90, but you still have like Crypt Lurker gear at 80, like you will be locked out of Alliance Raids because people were trying to circumvent getting into go into Crystal Tower by unequipping armor so that you would just default to Crystal Tower, then re-equipping armor once you're in it. I think that was the thing. That's why they changed it, and I think it was 6.5. So like, yeah, there's a number of things there that like the tank nerf, the aggro nerf, right? The enmity nerf going into Dawntrail. Like, yeah, there are a couple things missed, but once again, when I think 90% of your argument is there, I think we're arguing minutia and nuance at this point.
Right, that's what the comment section is for. Please share your thoughts if you have any, because I genuinely want to hear them. And for those of you who are bigger fans of me, thank you very much. Thank you for your endless reserves of patience and your kindness and waiting for me to finally get my together enough to make this. And a shout out to all of you who still have a YouTube membership to me, even though I haven't been beating you very well at all. And finally, a special thanks to my patrons, especially those of you at the highest tier. Flying Ogre, Arbiter of Ash, Chris, Six, County, Ducky, Eat This Brick, Ghost JB, Iron Fist, Jake, JCD, Joe Jetta, J Ryder, Lamelda, Mobius, Necromancer, Nova A, Papa November, Pocket Perini, Reposit, Morbius, Gamers Remnant, Shoehorn, Sync Beast, Steve, Struckified, Noob, Swordman DS, Prodigal Son, Thrandir, Zarsov, and Zedekiah. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to finish this script. You're the reason for me sharing my opinions with the internet instead of a therapist, which is to say, you keep me mentally ill. Thank you for that. See you next video, which is hopefully not in another 6 or something months. Also, I was a skinwalker the entire time. Thank you very much to my friend Wolfie for consuming my Bunny Boy's flesh and getting the gameplay footage for me. Okay, now bye.
Amazing. What a great video. I absolutely love this. Instead of writing a paragraphs long essay, I will use this as my thoughts, my quote-unquote response to this. I thought this was great. I think this goes out a little underneath, to make Final Fantasy Friday, I think this goes out a little underneath my 4-day limit, which I usually try to have. But 48 is kind of the lower limit of this. I think that these are discussions that need to be had. I think that there's absolutely some genuine and valid concerns here. I do think that there is a lot that needs to get discussed, and I think that a lot of good points were brought up. I think even if you, like me, went into this super combative, I think that there's a lot here that you can draw from. I think there's a lot here that you can look into. I think that this was a pretty mostly all-encompassing argument of this. So thank you, Lucy Pyre, for making an absolutely banger video. This is your reminder as well. Lucy Pyre is, as she said, she's fine with reactions. I would obviously try to be transformative, right? Just signal boosting the email. But it cannot take up the entire screen, doing my part to signal boost that to other React creators, because we try to promote morals and ethics, or we just don't have morals and ethics, right? Thank you everyone for watching. Let me know your thoughts about 14 down below, and if something like this definitely keeps you from wanting to try 14, and I'll see you in the next one.